Hello everyone, welcome to episode 79 of FPL BlackBox. My name is Az, and I'm here with a slightly worse for wear Mark. You've been out on the town, haven't you?
I'm not that bad. I've literally come from the pub stroke restaurant to join you immediately for a live stream to 773 people, which probably isn't a great idea. But thanks to the 773 people. It's good to see. Obviously, our ranks, the worse they are, the more turn up as.
Absolutely. I know people like misery. That's what we learned from our match today experiments. That's what we've learned from doing this podcast. No one wants to see two managers doing well, so tune into us. Instead.
There you go.
Loads to talk about today. We've obviously haven't got a huge amount of data to look at, but we'll try and do what we can with what we've got. Pretty interesting game week, though, wasn't it, Mark? I mean, some pretty big results. You know, Brentford beating United, Liverpool drawing again, Arsenal on the rampage. Got Haaland to talk about, Chelsea defence and Cucurella. Should be a good one.
It was, and you know, like we had last episode, we were talking about Darwin. He was the poster boy, wasn't he? And then look what happened. I mean, it was like last season all over again. Extreme result from something that a lot of FPL managers in between, you know, ahead of game week 2, were looking at Darwin and going, oh, you know. And I actually texted you, didn't I? I said, you know what? If he goes mad tonight, I might play my wild card. Right? Yeah. And you texted me back going, yeah, exactly. You texted me back going, well, I think that's the definition of going mad, headbutting a Crystal Palace centre back. But yeah, that wasn't what the kind of mad I was looking for. What drama, eh? And I don't know if it's a good or bad. I guess it's a bad thing in that I think he was maybe about to turn FPL on its head a little bit, and people were maybe going to go, maybe I need to get Darwin as my third Liverpool player. And instead of that, people are actually going back to just 2 Liverpool players. Certainly, we'll look at that more over the course of the show. And I think towards the end, when we look at our team, spoiler alert.
Absolutely, yeah. It feels like we're already on another season with massive swings of huge points, which we had last season, obviously. And if you're on the wrong end of it, it can really hurt. So if you are on the wrong end of it, like we have been, you know, variance hasn't been going in our favour. But
not our friend.
Not our friend. But we'll turn it around. It's early days. Yeah. Let's talk just quickly before we do that. Just to mention Fantasy Football Scouts. You know a little bit about Fantasy Football Scout, having founded the company.
Oh yes, I'm aware of those people. Yeah.
I work for them obviously now. They sponsor this stream all season, which is very generous of them. Just a note that if you haven't started with Fantasy Football Scout yet, this is your last chance to get pre-season prices and the price lock from last season as well. So it's going up from £2.49 to £2.99 on Saturday. You can lock in that £2.49 a month price, and you never have to pay any more than that if you lock it in now. So if you're interested in Scout and you want to look at all of the members area stuff, all the tables, and you know, brilliant articles from Neil and Tom, you do some videos over there as well with Andy, which you can watch as well if you're a member. So yeah, if you're interested in doing it, I strongly recommend you do it now before the price goes up, and it's well worth doing as well.
Those videos of Andy are crackers, aren't they? I don't know who the other guy is, but Andy's really good. Love him.
Yeah. I tell you, Andy is stepping it up this season. You know, he's hosting the Scout Cast, which is brilliant. He's doing the member stuff with you. He was on the pod with me, the official Premier League pod yesterday. He's he's.
I hope he just remembers where he came
his
from.
Roots. Exactly. Exactly. He won't.
Now he's got his big rank and everything. I heard him on this Scoutcast.
I know. Oh yeah, that's the thing. If he finishes really strongly as well this season, he's going to be. Yeah, I have to sack him, I think.
Yeah, those members' chats that I have with him are getting more and more awkward the better he gets in terms of his rank compared to mine. I mean, I can cope with you. You're not too far away from me, but when Andy's in the top 300k, yeah.
And he's tweeting, he tweeted something about saying, everyone's combined ranks isn't as high as ours. Oh, he needs to check himself. Let's talk about game week 2. Let's start with your game week 2. Yeah, pretty disappointing week for you. 55 points. Talk us through it. We can see where the lows were.
Yeah, no personal Jesus, basically. That's my problem, isn't it, eh? But I didn't have Jesus. So that was the difference, really, between me and 75% of the player base of FPL, basically. You know, you go against EO, this is what you get. You know, it's fine. I expect it. But, you know, 19 points was a big haul. Jesus probably won't do that again this season. So, you know, I've just got to accept it and move on. But, you know, Diaz got me into,
Could you
into
read
the realms
Come
of
on, Mark.
respectability.
Read your team out for the podcast.
I will read
listeners.
through it. I'll read through it. It's Ramsdale in goal with the 1 point. Not what I want from Ramsdale, but hopefully that gets better from now on. Shadow 11, Alexander-Arnold 3, Robertson 2, Walker 6, Son with 2, not what I needed. Luis Diaz, a hero, coming at 9, right at the clutch there to save my game week slightly. Saka with 2, not what I wanted again. Martinelli becoming the choice pick over Saka, obviously. And then Haaland, captain, who we'll talk about, I'm sure, over the course of the show with the 10. And then Brennan Johnson with the 1 point.
Head over heart.
I was
heart overhead.
I was yes, a heart overhead pick. I was at the game on Sunday as well, and you asked me what did I feel like when at the point where he scored that goal and then it got disallowed. When he scored that goal, I almost had to call for St John's ambulance. Basically,
Wow.
I almost collapsed through the heat and the emotion and excitement of him scoring that goal. I had to steady myself, and I thought I was going to go into some kind of vertigo attack at that point, but then the goal being disallowed brought me back to reality and I recovered. But yeah, I was a bit upset because it looked like he'd taken that goal well and he got me some points, but it wasn't to be, was it?
Yeah, I mean, I thought of you as soon as he scored it. I was so excited.
I bet you did.
Yeah, and then it didn't.
Oh, were you excited on my behalf?
I was honest. I was very. We're a team. Right. We're a team this season.
Yeah,
we're gonna talk about great and the good in a minute, and just how that's shaping up at the moment. It does feel a bit like it's us v them, which makes a refreshing change from the last 2 seasons of doing these with you. I mean, you didn't have Jesus. You mentioned you didn't have Salah. Haaland didn't really come through. Yeah, I mean, how are you feeling? I mean, you chose not to go with the 2 highest owned players in the game, and it's not been a great start. But
yeah, but I didn't choose to go with Salah and Jesus just because they were the best home players in the game. I honestly do think Son and Saka can keep pace with them. I still have to stand by that if I've made that decision, because I've obviously suffered because they were highly owned players. But that's the way it goes. First 2 game weeks. Son is quite capable of getting return against Wolves, and Salah and Jesus could blank. I mean, that's the way it goes. That's the way variance works. So, Jesus is not going to get 19 points very often this season. Right? He's a striker. To get 2 goals and 2 assists, that's effectively a hat-trick and an assist, effectively, isn't it? Not far off. So, is he going to get that again this season? Might do, could do, but I doubt it. So it's gone now. There's no point in chasing those points, I don't believe. I've got to stick with Saka. Who is a great player and still I think Arsenal's best player. He's just started the season quite slowly. Everything's been down the left with Zinchenko and Martinelli, so Saka hasn't really been involved as heavily as I would have expected. He still had a chance in the last game, and Jesus could have squared a ball to him for a tap-in as well. It just didn't happen. So I've got to give it more time, and Son I'm certainly going to give more time, because I do think that he can match Salah this season, given the positions that he's taken up versus the positions that Salah was taken up without Núñez. But now, of course, 3 games without Darwin in the team, we'll probably see Salah kick on and become the player we saw last season. I do still think that with Darwin in the team, we'll see a different Salah, but we're going to have to wait another few weeks for that now, aren't we? So there you go.
Well, Liverpool need to get their act together, because it's been a terrible start. For all the focus on United, it's been a really, really poor start for Liverpool. And you look at that midfield 3 of Fabinho, Milner and Elliott, and you think, this isn't the top. This isn't the top 4 midfield. I'd rather have McFred. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch. Yeah,
but
that's a bit of a stretch.
I think the other thing is that they look vulnerable at the back, and they went through that spell 2 seasons ago where they were losing home games. They lost 4 or 5 home games in a row. They were losing to Fulham and Burnley at home and teams like that. And there's shades of that at the moment. There's shades of they're looking confident in terms of they're not being able to rely on the back 4 at the moment. I mean, they played well when they were down to 10 men and when Palace were literally dropping off deep and so on. But before that, they looked vulnerable on the break. So any team now with a bit of pace up front and a bit of guile in midfield will fancy scoring against them, which ain't great. And they're not looking a mighty force at the moment. I don't think they are missing Mane, aren't they? Clearly, Diaz is not Mane, and that's changed things. And they've got Firmino and Jota injured at the moment. So let's see what they put out against United. We still expect them to win, though, don't we? 'Cause it's United, right?
I mean, Diaz stepped up, didn't he? When the sending off happened, I mean, not just the goal, but he was just everywhere all of a sudden. And
yeah,
that's what they need from him, I think, every week, because he was pretty quiet again until that point. and then just completely came alive. I mean, we're both we're coming to my team and set. We're both double Liverpool defence. Although spoilers for our team reveals later, we are now not both double Liverpool defence, and that comes with that what you've just said. And I've got some stuff on Thiago being out as well, which I noticed, which doesn't paint a particularly rosy picture for Liverpool without him. Let's take a quick look at my team. I fared slightly better than you, 73 points, all down to one man really, which is the De Bruyne captaincy. The rest of my team: Ward, Trent, Robertson, Cancelo, Luca Dean, -1. Can you believe it?
That was your first return of the weekend, wasn't it, Dean's? Yeah. I mean, when that went in, I was like, oh my God.
88th minute.
Only Luca Dean could do that, right? He finds new ways of hurting FPL managers, doesn't he?
He never hurts me. I've not. Everyone has said to me he's a troll. You don't want to own him. He's cursed. All this stuff. I bought him in when he just signed for Villa last year. I think he got like 13 points in his first game. I've owned him before, and he's got me like nice 6s and 7s when he's been at Everton. I've never had that really rough moment with him. Well, now I have, because -1. And the worst part is, I mean, it's 0 points for him over the first 2 game weeks. Any other 5 million defender, and I'd be like 10 points up. So
yeah,
it's really frustrating. But what can you do? You know, it's just one of those things. He's now gone.
The De Bruyne captaincy came in for you, and obviously I was pleased for you with that. And you stuck with it. And you must have watched that game fearing what Haaland could do, and then being pleasantly surprised just how little contribution he made to that game, with the ball anyway. I mean, obviously people will go, oh yeah, but he did a lot off the ball, which made space for others. You know, he might have only had 8 touches, but yeah, okay, right, yeah, maybe. But De Bruyne was certainly the player running the show, which is something we've come to get used to. But he did that and got returns, and he started the season strongly. And you know, when I started the season, the idea of getting Son and Kane was that I would move one of them to a City player, and the original plan was to go Son to De Bruyne, keep Kane. And had I done that, I would have been far better off, because obviously Kane scored at Chelsea and I would have captained De Bruyne like you. So I do regret now being kind of hoodwinked into Haaland, panicked by the fear of missing out after watching the West Ham game. I did buy into that, well, Haaland's going to be a force and unstoppable, and surely he's going to put Bournemouth to the sword. And I regret it. You know, it's got to go down as a mistake.
I'd have done the same as you in that position. I mean, you know, if you'd offered me a free transfer swap of De Bruyne to Haaland going into that Bournemouth game, I would have taken it. Absolutely. Right. You know, I was also terrified after watching that West Ham game. I thought, okay, Haaland's got the pens. He's going to be the kind of main man. And I mean, we're going to talk more about Haaland a bit later on, but, you know, he could have come away from that with a goal and assist pretty easily, you know, and a couple of bonus, and then there's no one's even talking about it. And you know, Pep's subbing Foden for not passing to him and saying all this stuff about him. You know, they need to get the balls into the box, and he's always going to be there. I mean, it's all encouraging stuff for Haaland. So
it is.
I think,
it is. And that's a very good point to make. What these comments about Foden afterwards was positive for Haaland owners.
Yeah. I mean, De Bruyne really did. I mean, De Bruyne and Jesus. I mean, without them, I mean, Salah blanked. Mount has been rubbish. Neto, 2 really good games for him. And yeah, I owe you an apology on that, because you said you weren't sold, and I disagreed. And he's been absolutely awful. Pereira as well. I mean, you know, I thought that was a good looking game against Wolves. I thought there'd be goals in that, and there wasn't any goals, which was the worst result when you got two attackers in that. And then Jesus up top, and Perisic on my bench, and I don't know what to do with him at the moment. He's the game week 1 was the worst case result for a Perisic owner, and game week 2 was probably the best case result, with Sessegnon going off injured and Perisic coming on and getting an assist and them looking a bit better. So yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one. Transfers have been made in my team. I've taken a -4. 3 transfers made. I'll talk to you about those.
Yeah, I want to see what you're doing with Perisic for sure.
Yep. Let's take a quick look at the great and the good. We're bringing this back in for the first time. Now, we've got a bit of a bone to pick here, haven't we? It's pretty pathetic, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Once again, Laz, if you can use a harsh word, if you can go to the extreme, you will.
People like me saying pathetic. It's my new catchphrase this season.
Yeah. So what is it you find pathetic as? Let's talk about it.
Okay, well, let's just go through the list. Ben Crellin, template rating, 77%. Fabio Borges, template rating, 77%. Slippers, template rating, 77%. Magnus Carlsen, template rating, 77%.
Yeah, we get it.
There's about 15 names on this list, all around the 70% mark. There's 5 managers with exactly the same rank at 446,879.
Now, how does that happen?
Well, I wonder.
I had to check with Greyhead. I was like, you got that right, because there's a lot of identical ranks, almost like they've got the same team.
It's almost like they've got the same team, Mark, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then you've got to go right down to third from bottom, where you find Savanish, who finished second last year. Well, he's got a template rating of 60%. And then you've got 2 Muppets at the bottom.
Well, you say Muppets, I say Mavericks, I say Trailblazers, I say Gurus, basically. But Muppets is another word you could use. Probably.
I mean, mine's the low. I've got a template rating of 32%.
What's doing that? What's doing the 32%? Oh, I guess not having Haaland.
De Bruyne, Mount,
not having Haaland.
Yeah, and I was the only manager in the great and the good not to captain Haaland, which was scary, and the only manager not to own him, obviously. But then you're there with 55% template rating. I mean, the trouble is that our template ratings are going to go up because it is the template players that have started the season so strongly. And, you know, Late Riser did post something, which was, you know, opportunity is sometimes just accepting there isn't any. And I thought that was quite a good quote, because I look around and it's hard to spot them, right?
But I still stand by the fact that Son and Kane game week 1 was an opportunity. It's very hard to say that wasn't. It just didn't work out. I don't think you can say, back in Son and Kane at home to Southampton, they were rampant in home matches towards the end of last season.
It wasn't optimal, was it?
And Son... I think it's difficult to say that wasn't an opportunity. It was an opportunity, I think. And I decided to take it at the risk of going against Salah and Haaland, and I paid the price, right? And fair enough. But I don't look back at that and think, what an outlandish risk that was, because I was back in Son and Kane at home to Southampton. It just didn't come off. So, yeah, I think what this shows is just how difficult it is to go against a template and get success early on. You know, clearly we've gone against a template, you quite considerably, and we've struggled as a result. But that's not to say that will continue. It will only take Son to get a couple of goals as my captain, and I will suddenly shoot up. But that's got to happen first. And will it? Don't know.
Well, I've had my De Bruyne moment, so yeah, hopefully your Son moment is coming. But yeah, we'll keep our eye on this as we do. If you like this kind of stuff as well, check out Greyhead's articles over on Scout as well. He does a weekly update on all this. There's not much to talk about if everyone's got the same bloody team, is there? So probably a rubbish article. It's not. Greyhead's very good. Let's get into some data then. Let's have a quick look at the fixture ticker. My boys Brighton, we're at the top. We've got a great run of 6 games up until game week 8. Brentford creeping in as well. Investment in some of their assets now. De Silva, really popular because of this Bailey no-show, which is about the most predictable thing that's ever happened in FPL, I think. Bailey getting 1 game, Gerrard talking him up, and then being dropped in game week 2. That is just classic FPL, isn't it?
It is, and I kind of like, you know, while I could beat myself up about Son and not going Haaland, there are others who went Neto and Bailey who are now having to get rid of them. So that not mistakes on the same scale, you could say, as not going Salah, perhaps, but still mistakes. I mean, very few FPL managers have started the season with an immaculate team and don't have any issues. So I don't have the Bailey Neto problems, so I don't need to worry about that. Instead, I have to worry about not having Jesus and Salah, which is probably more damaging. But even so, I think, it was something I thought would happen. And I think, when you're looking at lessons learned for the season, Bailey was touted by some as a trap, and it's turned out to be that way. And Neto's playing well, but it's just Neto's playing well, but just not in a team that has massive attacking output. So that's been the concern with Neto. So I mean, I think the ticker's quite interesting now with Brighton and Brentford where they are, because I think Brentford in particular have got a very strong run from now until about game week 16, 17, as of Chelsea. So there is actually like a mini swing in terms of the fixture difficulties now. It's not just short term for Brentford, it's long term, and Chelsea as well, who are 5th on the ticker here. They play Liverpool game week 8, but I think Liverpool game week 8 is their only tough fixture now between now and game week 17, which is when obviously we can refresh our team. So yeah, the ticker's suddenly becoming a bit more significant because teams are beginning to emerge that are real options for mixing our squads up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you look at Villa right down the bottom as well, second from bottom. Wolves right down the bottom as well. Newcastle, there's been investment in Trippier and Gamiras, even some people with Wilson. Even Fulham right down there. I mean, people have already obviously bought Mitrovic after game week 1. He's now missed a penalty. Poor old Ed, wild carding in Nunes and Mitrovic. I mean, what can you? It can only happen to Ed, can't it?
Yeah, it was hasty, wasn't it? But punished again, extreme, wasn't it? The Darwin red card, really. But,
yeah. I mean, there's if we're talking about opportunity, I think you mentioned Chelsea. I think Chelsea are a team that presents opportunity because I thought they were excellent against Spurs. Didn't deserve to draw that game at all. The worry is they haven't got that striker and who's going to convert. But I look at Leeds, Leicester, and Southampton and think, okay, this is 3 poor defensive sides, all who will come out and attack them. Mount's going to have more space. Sterling's going to be able to get in behind the defence. James is going to be able to bomb forward. Cucurella we're talking about. I think from an attacking sense, the next 3 games for Chelsea are excellent. So.
Yeah,
be interested to know if some of those players can kind of come into our thinking.
Yeah, I mean, certainly looking at this ticker, it played into my thinking, not just the next 6, but for the players that I bought in on my transfers. Spoiler: I've made 2 transfers. The fixtures from now going forward were a factor in that. So I think definitely is worth looking at the ticker at the moment because there's a few things popping out.
Yep, excellent. Right, let's take a look at some data. Our big sample size data. It'd be nice when I can stop saying that. How many weeks do we need before I can stop saying that? 6?
4? Maybe
4? Okay.
I think you can get away with 4. 2 home, 2 away. We might start seeing patterns in. I think, even 4 or 5 game weeks in, we've got to look at who those teams played because that will skew the data. And it certainly does skew it at the moment. But, the title of the show is Guns Blazing, and that's reflected in the fact that Arsenal are, at the moment, have been the best attacking team so far this season. 1.98 XG non-penalty per 90, and they were very impressive against Leicester for long periods of the game. Leicester actually kind of made a game of it scoreline wise, but actually possession wise and chances wise, Arsenal absolutely dominated that. Well,
they did, and I think they've just got an attack that knows how to play with each other. Odegaard pulling the strings, Martinelli. I mean, Saka's been disappointing, like you've mentioned. I think he's had to compensate a bit for Ben White at right back because he's not a natural right back, right? He wants to play at centre back. So you would think with Tomiyasu coming back in the side, that more natural right side is going. There's going to be more attack. There's no point in building an attack from Ben White down the right, not when you've got Zinchenko down the left. Yeah. So I think that's probably what's impacted Saka. But yeah, certainly. Martinelli just at 6.2 million or whatever it is, 6.3. It's just incredible value with the fixtures Arsenal have got. Gabriel Jesus, you're going to continue to go without him. It's tricky. It's a tricky one. I wouldn't have gone there if there'd been probably another striker, or maybe even if I'd gone with Haaland. So I feel a bit lucky that I'm actually on the Jesus train because I was kind of knocking him, pre-season. Some of the other teams. You've got City there in second. No surprise. You probably would have expected them to be top, right? Because Palace and Leicester wasn't the easiest 2 games on paper for Arsenal, whereas City have obviously had Bournemouth. So yeah, that just shows how high Arsenal are. Liverpool in third, so even though their attack seems to be struggling a little bit, they're still creating chances. Then you've got Brentford. There was a lot of talk about Brentford going into this season, concerns about whether they would have options for us and if they'd struggle this season with the second season and all that. But my God, they were good against United, weren't they?
Yeah, basically, I think I said to Andy, wasn't I? I don't think United, Ten Hag will know what to expect from Brentford, and that's the thing, right? Ten Hag's obviously would have seen plenty of Premier League football, but you can have a plan, but when you're smacked in the face, it suddenly goes out the window, as Tyson said, and Brentford smacked him in the face quite early on, didn't they? With a couple of goals, and they couldn't cope. I think if Ten Hag knew what Brentford were going to deliver, he wouldn't have started Martinez. Everyone was calling it. Everyone was calling it, well, Brentford are going to target him. Brentford are going to target them at set plays and they're going to target him at open play. Tony's going to be all over him and bully them. And he did dash that. It was like the third goal, was it? When Tony got free on the far post, nodded it across and me just out-muscled Martinez on the far post. It's like, I felt for them, but it's naive, isn't it? It's naive of Ten Hag to go into the game and not expect exactly that. Because everyone, us and any
I know.
Football experts, not us, but people who do this for a living, were saying that could happen. And yet we watched it unfold as if Ten Hag was completely oblivious to the risk of it. I didn't get it, really.
It's like the United players show something completely different in training to what everyone else is seeing on the pitch. Because I'm amazed that, 2/3 of these players are even in the starting lineup. I would have thought by now Ten Hag would be like, look, none of these players are good enough. Surely we've got better players in the academy, or just anyone that can come in and do a job here. But I mean, he doesn't trust. I mean, like Elanga hasn't had a chance to impress. I mean, Varane was on the bench. They've let Henderson go out. They're selling Garner, aren't they? Who's by all accounts is a decent prospect. Like I don't know.
But the thing is, I think those individuals they're playing are good players, but as a team, it's not there, and the spirit isn't in the camp at all. Is it? The spirit is broken. The confidence isn't there, and there's no leaders on the pitch. Maguire doesn't seem to be able to act as a leader to pull that team together. They look around at each other and no one's really taking responsibility to carry them through games. And Ten Hag doesn't yet seem to be able to provide that from the touchline either. He looked lost. He looked like... I think the most notable thing for me was 25 minutes in, drinks break, Brentford are 2-0 up, and Frank's already on the pitch with the tactics board. Ten Hag looked around and said, oh, is it a drinks break? And he had to get... It's like he was taken by surprise by it. And his team are 2-0 down. You'd think he'd be looking at his watch going, right, as soon as there's a drinks break, I'm on there telling them what to do. He was like, oh, okay. It was like, what's going on here? Why isn't he absolutely desperate to get laid into them? And it's worrying for them, I think, that, because he doesn't look like... He looks like he's out his depth already. And that's, I know this is a hot take, but it doesn't look good at the moment.
What I just can't understand is you've got players like international players, De Gea, Martinez, Maguire, Shaw, a midfield. Like the whole team is stacked with experience, really. But like Gary Neville said, they just cannot handle being pressed, even for a second, and they just completely lose their minds. And they're trying to play out from the back, which is absolutely ridiculous. Everyone knows De Gea can't play out from the back. They're making mistakes. They can't pass it properly. They've got no confidence in the final third. Yeah. Anyway, we're not going to turn this into a whole Man United podcast.
No, but I mean, at the moment, any team that plays Man United are going to be skewed in this data, aren't they?
Well, absolutely.
But, I mean, Brighton are at the bottom. They played them early on, but the XG is not great for Brighton. That quite surprised me.
That surprised me as well. I was about to. I mean, the bottom three teams all surprised me. Fulham at the bottom, given what we saw from them in the Championship last season, we thought they'd be maybe come into the season quite naive and be really attacking and bad at the poor at the back. It's been the opposite. Leicester as well. We know they've had defensive problems, but they're really struggling in attack again this season. And Brighton at bottom by quite some distance as well. 0.36 XG non-penalty per 90. That's some way off Leicester in 19th at 0.54. So people investing in Gross and Welbeck and these guys. We're not really creating a lot, which again is surprising.
Well, they're not creating a lot of quality chances, no. And chance per 95 is the lowest, right? So, it is. I mean, we don't expect Brighton to be a massive attacking force, even as the season progresses. But it's quite surprising to see them down the bottom. West Ham 0.98, but then they played City. You can't read too much into data yet. It's going to take another 3 or 4 weeks before we can start drawing conclusions. And like I said, anyone playing United at the moment are getting skewed somewhat. But I think the biggest takeaway is Arsenal and the start they've made. From what I can see there, it's obvious that you need to be on at least one, if not two, of their attackers.
There's a few people in the chat saying the Brighton data might not be right because it's different on FBref.
Oh, okay. Well, I took it off a scout, so we should have checked that before we went on there.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
it doesn't look right to me. So
it does seem low. I'll check that and then put a message in.
Yeah, it looks like that could just, if that's from the United game, it looks odd, but I don't see how it could be wrong because it's taken from the same table. But
no, we'll see. We'll check that anyway. Let's look at defence then. City. Oh my God. I mean, you look at City's defensive numbers, even in the first two games. I mean, okay, they played Bournemouth in the first game, but West Ham. Played Bournemouth in the second game. They played West Ham in the first game. I mean, they're expected to concede a goal every 3 games at the moment if it carries on. If they haven't looked troubled at all. They're just relentless. But Wolves in second as well is surprising. They've gone back to last year where they looked like a decent side in the opening few games, but not exactly very inspiring. But then it's surprising to see Liverpool in third as well. These defensive numbers are quite interesting because Liverpool have looked ropey to me, but apart from City, Wolves and Liverpool being second and third. Yeah,
the quality of chance they conceded against Crystal Palace wasn't. It's brilliantly taken goal. It wasn't an easy chance by any means, was it? So, again, even though they've conceded against Palace, I think that was a low XG, very low XG goal, and they didn't concede too many big chances no big chances, I don't believe, to Palace in that game. The Mitrovic chance in the first game was probably a bad goal to concede, and the second one was a penalty. So non-penalty XG is not going to be affected by that. So you can see why that. Wolves have played, they played average teams so far, haven't they? Played Leeds and Fulham. So I don't think we can read too much into that. City are where you expect them to be. They're going to be there all season. Brentford have had a good start. Brentford and Brighton are probably they could threaten to stay there. I think when you look at that top 5, Brentford, Brighton, Arsenal, Chelsea, Newcastle, Tottenham, those teams are going to move around in that area, but they're probably going to stay in that top 10. Those teams, I imagine, as the season progresses.
Yeah.
And Leicester, we saw last season, how vulnerable they're.
Oh my
God. Again, I think it's 2.0 XG from set pieces this season already. The worst team from set pieces after 2 games. We saw it last season. We speculated as to whether they might improve that over the summer. Losing Schmeichel hasn't helped, but they don't seem to have done. So banking against a set piece goal against Leicester is probably still on the cards, right, for us this season.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks like they're going to lose Fofana, right? Because these rumours aren't moving away from Chelsea. I don't think they're going to, if they're offering 70 million, I don't think they're going to balk at 80 or 85 or whatever Leicester want. And they don't seem a million miles off in terms of valuation. I mean, so he's going to leave.
He waved goodbye to the Leicester fans at Arsenal, right? So he's in his head, he's gone. Yeah. He can't. I mean, I don't know if he'll play at the weekend, will he? You can't go and wave goodbye to the set of fans and then turn up and play the next game. Sure, it must feel a bit awkward if he does. Wow. Because he literally has said goodbye.
Yeah.
So in his head, that was his last game for Leicester. So is he going to start at the weekend? I don't know. Maybe he will, but it'll be a bit odd. It's like, imagine going into work and saying, clearing your desk and going, see you, good, nice to know you, then turning up Monday.
Sheepishly coming back.
Yeah, that's effectively what he's got to do. Bit odd.
It's even worse than that. It's like going into your office and being like, right, see you later, I'm off to another company, I've had a massive pay rise.
Yeah.
You're all losers. See you later, you're going to be bottom of the league.
I don't think Fofana would have done that, but he might have done. Yeah. That would be bad.
That's the vibes. That's the vibes it gives off.
Yeah.
But I mean, Rodgers has got to sort this out, right? Because I mean, it's it's a draw against Brentford, a game they would have expected to have won. It's now a heavy loss against Arsenal.
Oh yeah.
Bottom of both these charts for attacking and defensive data. Players being sold. I mean, I guess the owners, if they're selling players and not investing, what do you expect? What do you expect to happen? But it's not good.
And Rodgers has got a very difficult job here because he's now losing key men, and Maddison's going to be a target in January, isn't he? If he doesn't, if he holds on to him now, if they're going to be mid-table to some, or maybe in the lower half, and people are going to come after Maddison in January. Rodgers has suddenly gone from managing a team threatening the top 4 to now managing a team who've probably got to stave off getting embroiled in the bottom 6, which is a bit of a come down, isn't it?
Yeah, so, absolutely. Some of the other teams to target. I mean, XG conceded on penalty per 90 of kind of anything over 1.5 is heading towards nearly 2 goals a game. You've got Leeds in that category, United, Everton, Nottingham Forest, I'm afraid to say, and Southampton. Let's talk about Forest quickly. I mean, you were at the game. What did you make of it? First home game of the season? Must have been.
We were very fortunate. Yeah, I mean, I think what was encouraging for me is that we gelled quite quickly as a team. The spirit's there already. They're all fighting for each other. For me, it was like watching a team that were in the bottom 3 with 3 games to go. That was the spirit we were showing. We were like, everyone was fighting for each other. The crowd was right behind them and pushing them through and being the 12th man. And yet it was the first home game of the season. So if we can keep that spirit up and add quality, which we have done already, there's Dennis and Freuler coming in already. And Freuler's like a Serie A veteran. Dennis we saw do bits for Watford last season. He'll be in a better team this time. I think we'll be all right. Defensively there's some issues, but Henderson's superb. I mean, like, he's got to be in the top 3 or 4 keepers in the league, I think, from what I've seen so far. He just looks so confident, and that confidence just spreads itself to the defence. So I'm encouraged.
Oh.
Yeah, it couldn't have been many different, could it? I don't want to talk about United again, but it was ironic, wasn't it, in the weekend that De Gea had an awful game, that Henderson did what he did. It was in the stars, wasn't it? But yeah, he's not going back. He's signing. Yeah, he's not going back. He's burnt his bridges, and they're looking at Meslier now, aren't they, as a long-term target? Yeah. So I fully expect us to sign him. It just wasn't done as part of the loan deal, but I imagine it's kind of an unwritten thing that he'll sign for Forest at the end of the season, I expect. So I'm very happy if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, Nottingham Forest seems to be kind of the odd one out of this lot. You know, you've got Leeds, Everton, United, Southampton, Leicester. They are teams that I would be looking to target. Fulham, I thought would be in that bracket, but I think I've been quite impressed with their shape and their players and their energy and their pressing and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't really look... I mean, Forest, after the first game, they looked like they were there for the taking. But you did ride your luck against West Ham, but I think overall it was still a good performance. I mean, I look at Everton, though, and I just can't see a way in which... I mean, there's talks that Gordon's going to leave now to Chelsea. They still haven't signed a striker. You know, none of them's come in. I mean, Onana... What's his name? Is Alan Shearer?
Looks a good player.
Looks good.
Looks absolutely. A good player. Yeah.
Yeah, he does look good. But is it enough just for one big signing like that?
We'll see. Forest have got Everton. Big game.
Yeah.
It'll be a real test. That will tell us where we are at the moment when we go to Goodison, because their fans will be right behind them. But I think we'll go confident. I think we might get something out of that game. We'll see. So yeah, it's too early to judge, but I think we can see that Everton will be down there. Southampton will be down there. Forest will be down there. Leicester could be, if they lose Fofana and they don't start scoring goals, then yeah, they could be down there. I think they've got enough to get out of that kind of relegation scrap and work their way up this table, but we'll have to see.
Bournemouth are quite impressive in 12th. XG exceeding on per 90 of 1.21. They've played Villa, which everyone thought they'd lose. They played City, which everyone thought they'd get absolutely smashed in. I thought they gave a good account of themselves against City. As well. We talked about the low block and that kind of thing, but in the end, City were too good, as they will be. But you know,
but again,
they weren't mauled.
It's Arsenal this weekend, so it'll be really interesting what they do with that, because you know, Arsenal are the form attack, and how they handle Jesus. They managed to stave off Haaland. Can they do the same with Jesus? It'd be a really interesting game, that, I think, 1-1. Well, you know, as the weeks go by, surprise, we'll learn more, won't we? Yeah. And yeah, that is definitely a game to look at and see, okay, is the Bournemouth defence more resolute than we expected? And is the Arsenal attack the real deal? I think I'll go with the latter rather than the former.
Yeah. One thing we do know, going back to Liverpool, whose defensive number is decent, but one thing we do know is that Thiago is going to be out for a while. So I just did a bit of digging into how Liverpool performed last season without him. So this is kind of what I had a look at. So in the games in which Thiago played more than 45 minutes, there were 16 games. They won 14, drew 2, lost 0. Not bad record. 88% win rate. Average points, 2.75. They kept 12 clean sheets out of those 14 wins. So in total, they had a clean sheet percentage of 75% when Thiago played. Now, without him, so when he played less than 45, so either he didn't start or he came off the bench, they played 22, so more games than without him than with. They won 14 games, the same. They drew 6, though, so they drew 4 more games. They lost 2, so their win percentage fell to 64%. Average points of 2.29. But here's what I thought was the most interesting bit. They only kept 9 clean sheets, which is a clean sheet percentage of 41%, down from 75%. So not only were they, you know, drawing more and not getting that kind of killer goal, but they just weren't keeping those clean sheets without him. I mean, I was a bit kind of, when he first signed and I watched the first half of the season, I wasn't too overly enamoured with him. It was kind of sideways passing and that kind of stuff. But when you actually realise the control and the influence that he has on everything that Liverpool do in that midfield, it's a big, big loss for him. We've both got Robertson, or we both had Robertson. Does something like this make you question that?
Yeah, I guess that they're not as able to control games as much without Thiago. He's not a protective shield for the defence by any means, but I guess he does reduce their ability to control games with possession, because he's probably their best player in possession. I think he is, right? So I guess what he brings to the team is that level of control that without him, Henderson, Elliott, and Milner are a decent level, but they're not, in terms of ball retention and passing ability, vision, dribbling ability. Thiago's better than any of those three, I would say. I don't think many would contest that. So I guess that's what they're going to miss, and they haven't really got a like for like. Elliott's a smart player, young up and coming player, but he's going to be inconsistent, and he's not got that quality that Thiago can bring yet. But I think he's done well. But yeah, they're going to miss him. There's no doubt. And it's interesting because when he first arrived, you were picking on him quite a lot and saying that he was slowing them down a bit. Obviously, they've got used to what he brings now, and he is integral. And these numbers kind of show that. And he's out for like another 4 weeks, isn't he? At least is what they're saying. So yeah, it's going to impact at both ends of the pitch by the looks of it. It's not the reason that I got sold Robertson, but looking at that, it kind of indicates that it's another factor that could contribute to Liverpool conceding goals over the next few games still. So we'll see. I mean, have United got it in them to score against Liverpool? You kind of doubt it, but Liverpool will probably give up chances as whether United are going to have the confidence and players in place to take them. So, yeah, who scores for United at the moment? Difficult to say, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, Ronaldo's Instagram messages about he's going to release the truth and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
nice.
I know, but he said like, I'll do it in 2 weeks, and it's like, why?
Right.
After the transfer window, I guess. But
like and subscribe for more.
Yeah,
it
almost is a bit like that. But I mean, that's the question, right? I mean, if United are going to harm Liverpool, they have to win that kind of midfield battle, and they have a better chance of doing that without Thiago in the side. Matip's out as well, which is another big player for them.
Matip is the big blow. I mean, Gomez, even now, if he's fit, Gomez, alongside Van Dijk, didn't look great before when they had the injuries at the back previously, when Phillips came to the fore a bit as a replacement.
Well, he got injured, to be fair, Gomez.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but even when he was fit, I don't think he is as natural alongside Van Dijk as Matip. Matip has kind of been superb, really. I mean, in many ways, he's outshone Van Dijk in some matches in terms of being the steadying influence and bringing the ball out of defence. So he's going to be massively missed as well. So yeah, they might be playing United, but they're going into that game with some problems, and they're, we're not totally convinced by them either defensively or in attack at the moment, are we? So
I don't think they have a huge amount of depth. They obviously do for those front three positions: Diaz, Jota, Firmino, all of that. But you look at the midfield, and you take Thiago out of that, and I mean, they'd have Chamberlain if he was fit, Thiago, Fabinho, Henderson's getting on a bit now. He's not the same engine that he was a couple of years ago. Elliott, okay, he looks good, but still a young player. Milner, I mean, Milner shouldn't be starting for Liverpool anymore. I mean, come on, he's a utility player at best for like the Carabao Cup or whatever. But I think they have weaknesses, and I look at them in defence as well. And I mean, Phillips starting. I mean, Phillips isn't I know he does a good job of Liverpool, and he's a bit of a fan favourite, but he's a lower Premier League defender. Let's be real. He shouldn't be starting for Liverpool if they have hopes of challenging for the Premier League. And they got Gomez there. Well, he's out of favour. Konate's injured as well. I think Liverpool are good. I had Trent, Robertson, and Salah in my team, and I wasn't going to touch those. They were just the locks, for the whole season. That's great, but I don't think we can look at them like that. Not with these injuries, because we've seen them with injuries before, and we know what happened. They had a really, really tough season. It could be the makings of that happening again.
Yeah, I think when they've got a significant injury in the back four, it stabilises the whole team. And Matip is more integral than we perhaps thought. You look at that back three and think, okay, out of the back four, rather, Robertson, Trent, Van Dijk, and Matip. If you had to choose one to lose, you probably would say Matip. But by the looks of it, that is a significant loss. So we'll have to see. I mean, I don't think there'll be trouble too much by United, but we'll have to see what comes out of it. I mean, I don't think he's out for too long. I think one of Konate or him could be back within weeks, and then it'll be okay. So it's not like the long-term issues they had the season before last. So
yeah.
But no need to panic. But this is interesting stuff. I mean, Thiago is going to be out for another month at least, so we'll see what impact that has. They've got a while to go, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing that could happen would be losing Fabinho, because if they lose him, he is that kind of anchor, that control, and he's so vital. So if he goes, I mean, where's Keita these days? He's never really stepped up, has he? I think they've got a lot of players that I think they could lose from this squad, and I think they need some investment, actually, Liverpool.
Chamberlain and Keita and players like that haven't really reached the level that they were expecting.
There's quite a few of them. When you look through. Be interested to see what happens. Let's have a look positions then. Let's go through these positions quickly. Now we've got a couple of weeks of data. Just to show the baseline bonus, this is a great measure of keepers. It's the keepers with the highest baseline bonus per 90 tend to be the best goalkeepers. And look at that. It's your boy, Dean Henderson, right at the top. Baseline bonus per 90 of 21.0. He's doing all the right things, right? He's made the most recoveries of all goalkeepers. He's made the most saves of all goalkeepers, even saving a penalty as well. He's 4.5 million. If you were wildcarding, would he be the one you'd go for?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
But I mean, Forest will get better defensively as well, but he's going to make plenty of saves, I think. And he hasn't really got a flaw. His distribution's good as well. I mean, I think his distribution was excellent the weekend. So he's all round at 4-5 for me, looking the best option now. I said at the start of the season it would take a few weeks for the best 4-5 to emerge. Raya will push him, and he started well as well. But I think I favour Henderson at the moment. The only thing going against Henderson is Nico Williams, who's also excellent, right? So if you've got Williams, you're probably not going to go Henderson as well, because when you want to play Williams, you won't want that double up. So Raya will probably be the most popular 4-5 still. But if I was going 5 at the back and I wasn't having Nico, I would definitely go Henderson, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What about Ramsdale? I mean, Ramsdale's right down there. Baseline bonus per 90, not great. He's expected goals prevented, minus 1.2. That's a bit worrying, given that's where he kind of was, in the back end of last season. I mean, you weren't his biggest fan last year for FPL reasons.
Yeah.
You got him in your team. Are you a bit unsure about that? I mean, because I've been able to go for Zinchenko, for example, which you can't do because if you've got Ramsdale.
I'm worried by a couple of things from the Leicester game. I mean, he rushed out and, he didn't make enough contact with Vardy and he got away with a penalty. But then he conceded the second goal through his legs, which, it's a decent strike by Maddison, but you shouldn't be. It was quite a distance from the shooter, wasn't he, Ramsdale? He really should have not let that in. I think most keepers would, looking back, be disappointed with that, and probably him included. I'm going to hold him because it's probably not going to be to my wild card that I make a keeper change. But I'm not convinced that he's not going to make an error a game and then concede some silly goals. So it's early days. He did well at Palace. He had that one-on-one chance from Eze and he saved it well. He looked convincing in that game, but I think the Leicester game he looked a bit shaky. So jury's out. He's got that in him, hasn't he? He's got that mistake in him.
He has.
He's going back to Bournemouth, his former club, so he'll have a point to prove. I'd like to think I'll get a clean sheet out of that game, but we'll see.
Yep. Excellent. Who have I got? Oh, Ward. Where's Ward on this list?
There he is, 16th.
Oh, 16th.
Yeah.
Nice. Yep.
Minus 1.30, so some of the worst expected goal prevented in there.
Yeah, but
I mean, you get what you pay for.
Million less than Ramsdale.
Yeah.
Only 5 points between them. Maybe it's even.
Look at De Gea down there.
Yeah,
look at De Gea, minus 2.10. Is that is the worst? Yeah, of course it is. It's the worst expected goal prevented.
There's Bazunu in minus 2.6.
Okay. Well, you're absolutely right. Yeah, okay. I mean, he's a young, inexperienced former City keeper, whereas De Gea is a Spanish veteran international. So I'll give Bazunu a bit of slack. Yeah.
Very highly rated Bazunu. All the Southampton fans I speak to say he's great, but hasn't really shown it yet.
Needs time.
Yeah, and a difficult club to be a goalkeeper at because they're going to get peppered. Let's take a look at defenders then. Perisic at the top. I sense that he's going to remain at the top for quite a lot of this season, which is going to constantly make me think that I shouldn't sell him, and then I never will, and then he'll never play, and I'll never get any points. Obviously, this day is a bit skewed because he's only played for 37 minutes, but he came on and kind of got the assist. mean, when you go down the list, it's all the kind of familiar names. I mean, it's Trent next, 0.58. Expected goal involvement non-penalty per 90. So you're basically going to get something from Trent every 2 games-ish, at least, according to this data. Reece is next. Reece James in third, 0.52 as well. Actually, no Cancelo. Where is Cancelo on this list? He's
39th.
39th. Look at that. Right the way down. So I'd say familiar names, but Robertson in 35th and Cancelo in 39th. That's not where I thought those two would be after these 2 games.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because although it's early days, you look at Trent and Reece James at the top, and Sessegnon, and Perisic. So basically, the Spurs wing backs, Alexander-Arnold and James, they'll be there all season. Whoever is the Spurs wing backs of choice, and James and Trent will be at the top of this table. But you'd expect Cancelo and Robertson to be a lot higher for similar reasons, because they were strong last season. They were both in the top 10 last season, but for XG non-penalty per 90, but it's not happened yet. But Cancelo's been fantastic still. He might not have created too much in terms of chances, but so he's creating 1 chance per match. But in terms of his all-round play, he's been excellent, and he's been racking up the bonus points as a result of his contributions. So we can't complain about Cancelo. What do you make about Robertson's performances, though? I mean, like, he's being sold a lot. Do you think he's genuinely playing badly? Because I was surprised he was taken off. Tsimikas was awful when he came on. So I don't think there's any risk in Robertson's level of performance. It's more about Liverpool likely concede goals, and then perhaps the value isn't there. Is that how you see it as well?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a table here just looking at Robertson, Trent, and Reece James, and kind of how they've gotten over the first 2 games. I mean, what I've seen from Robertson, that I saw in the Community Shield, was a player who's playing really high up the pitch, getting into the penalty area quite a lot. He's had the most touches in the box of all 3 of these players, but he's not shooting, he's not creating chances. His XGI is terrible, really, 0.10, 0.10 compared to the others. Trent 0.58, James 0.52, as I mentioned. And it's concerning because of the clean sheets and Matip being out and Thiago as well. So you're kind of losing that safety blanket a little bit if Liverpool are going to be a bit leaky. You need to get those attacking returns from him. And it's always risky to just rely on a defender purely for attacking returns. I did not like him getting subbed for Tsimikas.
But how did you see that?
I can't really understand it. I can't really work it out, because they're chasing a game. He was playing it very attacking in that game. I didn't think he was having a particularly bad game. I don't know. I'd like to know what you think, because I watched it and Tsimikas came on and he was awful, like you said.
Yeah, I mean the fresh legs, obviously, and
legs,
wing backs
though in game week 2, because he came off pretty quickly, didn't he, after the sending off?
When a team's down to 10 men, you want as much energy around them as you can to kind of make the most of that extra man, don't you? So I guess he felt Tsimikas could bring that. And to be fair, Tsimikas' data when he plays is really strong. Arguably, perhaps Klopp feels that Tsimikas is better in the final third than Robertson. You can make an argument for that. Robertson's not... The difference between Robertson and Reece James is when Reece James gets in the final third, or when Reece James has a touch in the box, there's more likely he's going to make it tell. He's a better crosser, and he takes chances. Whereas Robertson, his crossing's okay, and he's playing in the team with Trent Alexander-Arnold, so you're not going to look that great, are you, compared to him? But I do think James is a better deliverer of a final ball, and I think James is better at taking chances than Robertson. So whether Klopp feels that Tsimikas could give him a bit more in the final third, maybe, certainly a bit more energy. That's how I saw it. Robertson I think he started the season well in terms of what he's offered. He's popped up in the box a lot, and we talked about it last week about him being on the far post. He could easily return in the next game, and the people who show faith get rewarded. But I do think when you compare him to Reece James, given that Chelsea's fixtures are looking very strong, Reece James now looks certain to start either at centre back or right wing back. And when he does get forward, he is more effective than Robertson. I don't think you can argue against that. So even if Robertson did have chances, he's not a clinical finisher, and he's not a deadly deliverer of a final ball, is he? Whereas Reece James is more of both of those things. So, yeah, I think it's difficult to make an argument for Robertson versus Reece James at the moment, which is why that's the move I made, and I don't feel unhappy about that.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, it's a million difference between Robertson and James. It's a lot of money, and from what I've seen, I think Robertson is going to be a good player. And I'm not saying we need to sell him, but I think there's enough things to indicate that it could be a bit tricky for Liverpool, at least initially, with Thiago and Matip out defensively. I think it's just shown that he is capable of being subbed if things aren't going their way. You're not going to see that with Trent. You're not going to see that with James. Let's be honest. I mean, he's going to get moved around to any position he can to kind of keep him on the pitch. And, for 7 million, as the second most expensive defender alongside Cancelo, he needs to be returning, really. And yeah, I just don't really see it at the moment. I think when it's a straight shootout between Robertson and James, if you've already got James on your side, I don't think taking Robertson out needs to be a priority. But if you haven't got James, like neither of us did, I think it's just quite an easy move, to be honest. Yeah. So we've done that. Let's take a look at some of the other defenders. I mean, I've also put in Zinchenko this week. He's 8th on the list. Expected goal of non-penalty per 90 of 0.28. His heat map is outrageous. I haven't got a graphic of it, but he really is playing in that kind of Cancelo light role from Pep days, where he's just camped sort of just outside the penalty area, really high up on the pitch. It's really kind of encouraging to see. I mean, what do you make of him with Tierney now back, and is he going to get moved into midfield now? Xhaka's scored and is playing well.
Well, that's it, isn't it? That's the thing. I mean, I know Arsenal fans still consider Tierney to be a better left back. So if Arteta also feels that way, you've got to think that Zinchenko will move and make way. And I don't think they bought Zinchenko as a left back. Arteta was talking a lot about his versatility, and we know that Zinchenko wants to play in midfield. Right? He's expressed that before. That's where he plays for his international football. The trouble is, Xhaka has started the season really well, because that's the obvious berth, I think. You might have noticed Xhaka's actually getting forward a lot more. That role is tailor-made for Zinchenko, who can offer a bit of quality in the final third as well. Xhaka's actually taken his chance, though, in that role, got forward a lot, got a goal, and been a factor in their attack. So I think it's difficult to see him dropping Xhaka at the moment, but I think that's the position for Zinchenko eventually. It's just, does he wait? Does he keep Zinchenko in the team and then wait to make the switch with Xhaka before he brings Tierney in, or does Zinchenko get benched? I don't think Zinchenko is benched. I think you're all right with him, but I think it's not long before we end up seeing him displaced at left back, and then Xhaka makes way. And
that's the hope. That's the hope. Is that Zinchenko moves into the midfield role. I thought about it for a while, because obviously I was looking at Cucurella, who's on this list as well. He's in 12th. He's on set pieces and got the assist, and they're kind of both. I think Zinchenko is more nailed than Cucurella, particularly if Fofana comes in. But there's still some element of doubt around both players. But Cucurella particularly is a much cheaper alternative to James, or a decent sort of pairing alongside him. Zinchenko is one of the cheaper options at Arsenal, because there's no one at 5.5. I mean, what do you make of Cucurella? Because he's being bought by a lot of people. I'm more wary of him than I am Zinchenko, which is why I went for Zinchenko around the same price.
Yeah, I guess Chilwell's always going to be there as a factor, and if they do get Fofana, which looks likely, then there could be rotation in the back three. I think Cucurella will start most games though. Zinchenko will probably offer a bit more going forward, because I think Cucurella will play most games left centre back, and Chilwell will get some matches. I don't know. It's hard to say at the moment how that's going to shape up. It's interesting. He's making noises as if Chilwell's not fit, and yet Chilwell started at Everton. Yeah. And declared himself fit for that game and played, won the penalty, and then suddenly, all of a sudden, he's out the team and Cucurella's straight in, and Tuchel's talking about Chilwell not being ready. It's like, well, if he wasn't ready, why did he play at Everton? I mean, a bit odd. So I don't know whether they assessed his performance at Everton, gone, well, you're clearly not fit. You didn't do the yards. You didn't, maybe I didn't look at Chilwell's performance closely in that game. I don't know whether they were critical of his performance, and that's why Cucurella came straight in and Chilwell get dropped. Maybe that was the case. So maybe Chilwell's going to be out a while, because if there's one thing managers don't like, it's players saying, yeah, I'm fit, I'm ready to play, and then not putting in the yards to prove it. And presumably that's what could have happened, right? So I think Cucurella's got the role at the moment at left wing back, but is that long term? I don't know. Chilwell's too good, isn't he? And Chilwell's got a World Cup to make for. It would be unfortunate for him if he didn't get that chance to gun for that, wouldn't it?
I mean, this is the thing. I think Cucurella is going to be 50% probably giving Thiago Silva a break and 50% giving Chilwell a break.
Yeah.
So he's kind of almost going to be a first team player without actually being a first team player, which is a bit strange. But yeah, I mean, I do like him. I think unlike James, I only want to see it right wing back and not a right centre back. He still gets forward a bit, but it's a very different thing. Whereas I don't think it really matters with Cucurella. If he's playing at left wing back, obviously he's a better option, but I think he's for 5 million, even if he's a centre back, he's still going to get good value of him. So I definitely don't hate it, but if you were to pick one, Zinchenko and Cucurella, who would you go for?
Yeah, I mean, I've got Ramsdale, and I think Gabriel's a factor also. I think Zinchenko will eventually become the weapon of choice in the Arsenal back line. It's a bit early at the moment because we don't know how it's going to work out, but yeah, I'd probably go Zinchenko because I don't want to double on the Chelsea defence, and I think James is pretty much, if you're playing a back four or back five, you've probably got to have James.
I think particularly looking at like the next 3 games as well, I think there's more chance of Arsenal clean sheets in those. Chelsea have been good defensively, but they play 3 attacking sides who are going to have to go at them like we've kind of talked about. So I think there's a good chance of defensive returns for Arsenal. Let's take a look at midfielders. By the way, we've got 2,200 people watching live, which is incredible. Really amazing. It's definitely
going later, you see.
Yeah.
The later we get and the worse our ranks get, the more people turn up.
What people want. No technical issues yet, although I did just have a notice to say that someone's signed into the Zoom account, which is why if anyone's seen me frantically looking anywhere elsewhere. But I don't know what that is. So whoever's doing it, get off the Zoom account. But if you could like the stream, that would be amazing. We've got 361 likes, which is really good actually. 2,000 viewing though. If you do fancy chucking us a like, then we would really appreciate it. We're trying to head up towards 30,000 subs, aren't we? What are we on now? About 25?
Be nice to get the suits out before the end of the season.
It would be lovely. Yeah, it would be really nice.
Slippers in the audience there, giving us
the
nice little donation to the cause.
€2 super chat. He started with Cucurella. I mean, what a shout that is.
Did he?
Yeah, we talk about template managers, but I mean, that is a hell of a call, isn't it?
I think Andy's beaten me for 3 seasons in a row, maybe 2. I don't know, maybe 3. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know why I brought that up. Let's move on, shall we?
He did give us some money.
That's not worth €2.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
no,
go on.
He's got all that YouTube money. He can afford a bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
Midfielders then. Some interesting ones here. Not the players that you would expect to see at the top of the list, I don't think. Buendia first. Okay, he's played 76 minutes, got the goal. Fine. Pascal Gross. Look at him in second. I think that Brighton data must be wrong because Gross himself has got an XGI non-penalty of 1.04. So surely that's got to be Brighton.
I know exactly what's happened in the scout tables. I think sometimes it defaults to missing out the 3 promoted teams, and basically I didn't notice it had done that. So therefore, because they played Fulham, that Fulham game wasn't included in their. I reckon that, or have they played the promoted team,
no.
Brighton? Who have they played? Well, how could I have happened? I'm gonna have to. I almost want to stop the show and check how that's happened.
I know this is really going to eat at you, isn't it? I can just see.
It really is.
Yeah.
I want to finish the show as quickly as possible so I can see how that happened because it's just almost impossible to do because it's all for the same table. But anyway, we'll see. No. But yes, Gross at the top there, and we should talk about him, right? Because he is getting some traction, and
he is.
He's been around a long time. Yeah, I had to look at his data, and I thought, has he really been in the Premier League 5 seasons? But he has, because he came up with Brighton. You signed him in the first season, right?
Yep.
And I heard the guys talking about him on Scoutcast, and they were talking about, a couple of seasons ago, he had a good debut season. That was 5 seasons ago, his debut season.
That is nuts.
He goes back to 2018-19 when he came into the Premier League with Brighton. He came up
17-18 it was.
Right, 17-18.
Even further than that.
Before that, yeah. So he was like a leading assistant in the Bundesliga. So he came in with some reputation, and you got him famously in that season.
Here he is on my wall.
Yeah, incredible.
Here he is.
So, but he is having somewhat, not even a renaissance, because it's not even going back to the form that he had previously. This is new level stuff from Gross at the moment. But it is 2 games, and surely you're going to tell me that it's going to revert to the norm very soon, right?
Probably.
Right.
Yeah.
Because is there a change in... I had a look at the heat map and the touch maps and stuff, look back at him versus last season's. No real difference in the role he's playing. So what is it? Just more of a license to get... Because going through the data here, touches in the box per 90, 5 per 90 at the moment. Previous seasons 2.65, 2.47, 2.60. So double the touches in the box per 90, double the shots in the box per 90, and big chances 1.50 so far. So yeah, I mean that's the penalty, of course, but he has been your star man so far.
Yeah, he has. I mean, his conversion rate is 50%, which straight away is
not going to continue.
Is not going to. I mean, look at his previous season: 8% the year before, 9% the year before that, 6%. Yeah. I mean, he's not a clinical finisher, and we saw it. My dad. I was watching the game with my dad at the weekend, and he was absolutely tearing his hair out when he missed the chance that our new boy. I can't remember his name. It's embarrassing. Mitoma, the Japanese guy. He was brilliant when he came on. By the way, he set Gross up perfectly, and he missed the chance. I think Gross is a decent option, right? He's 5.5 million. He is getting in the box. We are playing really well. We're top of the fixture ticker. He's probably on penalties as well. He's definitely not a terrible option, and. You know, he has had. In his best season for us, he got 167 points, which is 164 points, which is an amazing return. But I mean, look at his returns in the last 4 years: 80 points 2018-19, 76 points 19-20, 116 points 2021, 88 points 21-22. I mean, this is bad. These are really, really bad fantasy returns.
Yeah, but he's not been a main. He's been in and out of the team under Potter, hasn't he?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And his positions have been moved around. He's been Mr. Versatile. So if he's got a settled starting role and a settled position in the team over this good run of fixtures, I don't think he's an awful pick at all. So I can get on board with it, but your expectations should be one over 5.5 midfielder. Don't suddenly elevate him to a 7.58 million level, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, our midfield is really interesting because we're adapting without Basuma there. Casado has been absolutely fantastic for us. He looks like a hell of a player, loads of energy. He's getting forward as well. I mean, out of those three, I would have thought that McAllister was the most attacking, given that we signed him pretty much as a number 10. But he's actually he's dropping the furthest back and letting the other two kind of roam forward, which again is just Potter is just like 3D chess moves. Like you just can't predict anything that he's going to do. Wouldn't be surprised if Gross suddenly just stopped getting forward and started playing a deep lying playmaker role, or played on the right. He's right wing back. He's played it before. He doesn't. Gross was a number 10. He didn't have any versatility, and now suddenly he can play in all these different roles. So. Long story short, 5.5 is a good price for him. I don't think people should be put off. I think if you've got the money in the bank and you want to move up from Bailey, I think he's the perfect 5.5 midfielder in that sense. But I wouldn't expect huge returns. I mean, he's already got 2 goals, which is already nearly however many he's managed, each season for the last 4 years. He's got 3 goals in 2021 and 18-19. So he only needs one more goal to match those seasons.
I said one of his big chances is a penalty. He hasn't taken a penalty yet. I'm incorrect about that. But do you expect him to be on penalties? Because the talk is it's McAllister. Is that still up in the air, or are you in the McAllister camp?
Well, I don't think it will be McAllister, because Gross has taken a penalty for Brighton more recently than McAllister. The interesting about McAllister was there was a game, I think it was against Wolves. McAllister stepped up, took the penalty, missed it, and then we got another penalty, and then he stepped up and scored it.
He took it, yeah.
But then Gross took the one after. Now, I can't be 100% sure about who was on the pitch when, at what points. Gross hasn't got a great record at penalties either.
No, he's missed 3 of 9.
Yeah, that's right. He has missed quite a few. So I think if McAllister over pre-season had said, right, I'm going to step up and I want penalties, I'm going to practice them and do it, I think he's probably got them. If he hasn't done that, I think Gross is still first choice. I would expect Gross to take the next penalty. Again, the long-winded answer of saying I think Gross take him. Some other interesting stuff on this midfielder list. Let's just go into Rodrigo quickly, because Rodrigo is taking everyone by storm as well. He's not exactly been a player that any of us have really considered, but there he is. I mean, again, it's similar to Gross, right? He's just having a great start to the season. 3 goals already in 2 matches. Next year, non-penalty per 90 of 0.99. That's much better than last year, 0.26. Better than in 2021, 0.55. What do you make of Rodrigo? I don't really know how I feel about him.
Well, when he arrived, I expected more from him, and I was actually disappointed with what I saw. So I think there was always scope to get better, and maybe March has worked on him over the summer and found a a role for him in the system that gets more out of him. Maybe, that's what we have to think at the moment. But then you look at that, and conversion rate this season, 37.5. Previous seasons has been 12.8 and 15.2. Not awful, but obviously he's overachieving at the moment based on what we've seen previous seasons. So we expect him to normalise a bit. But at 6-1, and with Bamford potentially injured again, and let's face it, Bamford is likely to be injured more than one occasion this season. And you've got to think Rodrigo's going to lead the line and perhaps be on pens as well, maybe. So I don't see anything wrong with this either. I think Gross and Rodrigo, if you're upscaling from Bailey, are both really good options if you're lucky enough to have that money or can get the money. So Leeds' fixtures, I don't know if you want to go back to tick, I don't know what they look like. Obviously, Brighton have a very good run. Leeds is a bit more patchy. Yeah, and I guess like Brighton, they're not an attack that we can bank on. I think the jury's still out on what we get from a Jesse Marsh team. We know it's not a Bielsa team. It's not going for the throat, 3-0 down, we're still going to attack, is it? They're a much more pragmatic team. They're not going to go crazy in matches. But they've started the season with some confidence, and Aronson looks good. The midfields look stabilised with the new signings there. Adams looks good, impressive. Christensen looks good at the back. I think they're a solid team who will probably be in the bottom half, but survive without any real threat. But Bamford staying fit is going to be key. Not only to Leeds' chances of staying out the relegation fight, but also how Rodrigo does. So I don't think it's a bad idea to take a short-term punt on him if you can upscale from Bailey. I would probably favour Gross, given the fixtures, because Rodrigo, I just don't know if he can maintain this. Whereas I think with penalties and Brighton confidence and the fact they've got Leeds, Fulham, Leicester, Bournemouth, I think that's a stronger run. So because of the price difference, I'd probably come down in favour of Gross over Rodrigo at the moment.
Rodrigo and Gross. And we're at that stage already. I mean,
well, we are, aren't we? When it's game week 2, you are talking about those players.
Yeah, absolutely. And Neto is someone that I thought would also start strongly. And actually, Wolves' attacking data isn't bad. I mean, they're 6th on the team data so far, 1.37. That's equal with Leeds, for example. But I think Neto he's looking like that kind of unlikely lad that's always just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He looks good on the ball, a bit like Grealish when he was at City last year. He looks good on the ball, tidy, but kind of game just seems to pass him by a little bit. Not really someone that I want FPL-wise, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, Wolves have been a team that don't take their chances now for a long time, haven't they? When Jimenez came back, he didn't look the same. They've had the likes of Podence and Traore who really don't give them the cutting edge. And Neto fits that profile again. A nice player who looks impressive, doesn't have that ice running through his veins and takes chances in a clinical fashion. It looks like he fits that Wolves profile again. So they've made some signings though. They've made some big moves. And Gibbs White could yet be a factor for them as well. He notably is 14th on this list, which is a decent level, 0.45 XGI non-penalty per 90. I rate him very highly. I want him at Forest, and I still hope we can get him. But if he stays at Wolves, he could be one to watch as well over Neto. But yeah, he has been disappointing. But I thought that would be the case. I mean, he's 36 on this list, which is not disastrous, and he could yet come good. But Neto and Bailey have been sold a lot, and with the likes of Gross and Rodrigo starting as they have, I think it's easy to see why. Yeah.
What do you think of Martinelli? He's down in 15th. He's kind of the lowest in terms of his XGI non-penalty per 90 of all the players that have scored 2 goals, and there isn't too many of them in midfield. I mean, Josh De Silva is 84th on the list. I mean, he has got 2 goals. There is investment in him, but he's not going to be playing De Gea every week. But yeah, I mean, Martinelli I think has been a bit fortunate, I'd say, in the 2 games. But I think what was notable was when Leicester were almost kind of coming back into that match against Arsenal, and Arsenal were looking for another goal to kill that game off. They didn't take Martinelli off and bring on Smith Rowe, which I had him in that bracket of being, okay, when there's something that needs doing, it's going to be Martinelli hook straight away. Maybe Jesus can play it left, maybe Nketiah comes on for him. There's lots of different ways they can, but they left him on and he scored. That's got to be good for his prospects, hasn't it?
Yeah, and they took Saka off, which, I mean, I don't expect Saka to get 90. But you'd think Martinelli would come off first, and maybe that's not what happened. We've got to wait and see. But I got Martinelli early, so I'm happy about that. I think if you haven't got him, all the signs are he's going to hold down that left-sided role, and Smith Rowe's going to struggle to get get starts. The test is going to be game week 4 and 5, that midweek game week, where we expect to see some rotation. If Martinelli starts both games, I'll be surprised. I think Smith Rowe will get one of those starts, right? So we've got to be prepared that in game week 5, if you've got Martinelli, you might miss a start in that game because Smith Rowe's got a factor at some point, and I don't think Saka's going to be the one to make way, personally.
You wouldn't pay 1.8 more for Saka, would you? When you could have Martinelli at 1.8 less?
At this point. Not at this point, no. But I think you can't write Saka off.
Oh, I'm not.
You just can't. He's such a good player, and in terms of decision making, there's a massive gap between Saka and Martinelli. In terms of what's up here, Saka is streets ahead, I think. Martinelli's got the pace and trickery and first touch, but in terms of the calmness and composure and making decisions with final balls and passes and shooting, Saka is the better player. It's just it's not materialised yet.
Yep. Odegaard's right down there in 74th. We talked about him pre-season and kind of said we thought he might be a factor. He's not until Vieira comes, I think. But that's another question mark around Zinchenko, because Vieira's going to come in. Whose place is he going to take? They paid quite a lot of money for him.
Yeah, well, this is it. I mean, Partey, unless the off-field things get him suspended or he doesn't become a factor. I don't know how we classify this now.
No.
We've had a few players, haven't we? Right. So I think Arsenal got to be prepared that Partey might not be part of their season at some point.
I think
maybe that's
from what I understand, unless anything new emerges, that's done and dusted.
Is it done?
Yeah, obviously I don't want to get into it, but I think that's done, and that isn't something hanging over him unless other things happen.
Well, I'm not going to comment on that, but in that case, I can only see Xhaka being the one that makes way. There's no way Odegaard's going to lose his place as captain, and Partey is absolutely crucial to shielding the defence. So Xhaka's the disposable one there, isn't he?
Well, he's the weak link. So he's the complete weak link in that team. I don't like him at all.
And so where does Vieira go? Does he rotate in and out of that role with Zinchenko maybe? Does he take one of the right? Again, Saka, I don't think unless Saka continually dips in form and doesn't produce, then maybe we'll see Saka being the one who doesn't start some games. But at the moment, the pecking order's got to be the players who are most vulnerable, for me, are still Xhaka and probably still Martinelli. I don't think Odegaard or Saka are at risk yet. So when we see rotation with Smith Rowe and maybe Vieira or Zinchenko coming in, it will be Xhaka and Martinelli still, I think, who will be the ones to make way. But Saka's got to put his finger out. Yeah. That's for sure. And so's Odegaard. He hasn't been brilliant, has he?
Yeah, no.
I really predicted great things from Odegaard, but I don't, the numbers say he hasn't started well, and the eye tests say that he hasn't pulled up any trees either. In pre-season, he looked imperious, so I was really expecting more, but hasn't happened yet, hasn't clicked.
It's a very different, season for Arteta, isn't it? Because, last year he's having to deal with, problems like Aubameyang and Lacazette leaving and quite a threadbare squad, really. But this year, they've made so many good signings and the team's strong. I mean, it's all fine when they're doing well and winning and things, but when they start going through a bit of a blip and then, you've got players, banging on his door saying they want to start. I mean, Smith Rowe is way too good to be on the bench, for a whole season. So he's going to get chances, he's going to get minutes. Is he going to take them? Vieira's going to come in. What happens to Zinchenko if Tierney comes in and plays really well? They're the top team to target at the moment, and it's a good time because at the moment they're very settled. But later on in the season, it might not be so click up.
A lot of people disagreeing with me on Martinelli. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. He started the season well, but I still think Saka and Odegaard are above him in the pecking order for me. I don't see him being above those two yet. If one of those three is going to make way, it's still Martinelli for me.
Yeah, well, he hasn't got the versatility because he can only really play on the left wing, whereas Saka can play anywhere. Odegaard can play deeper, he can play higher up, he can play midfield. I mean, he could even play on the right, maybe. Got Jesus that could play on the left. Yeah, I know.
But we'll see.
I agree.
I mean, another 3 or 4 weeks, and I might have changed my story. I mean, my defence has been 2 games, so I might well be wrong.
It's definitely his place to lose at the moment. Forwards, then. Look at that. Solomon Rondon right at the top, with 27 minutes played. I think
he did all right when he came on, I thought.
Yeah, well, he's got an XGI non-penalty of 2.17. So
but he made the difference for them. He gave them a little bit of a focal point, which they missed to that point, and I think he'll probably start against Forest. So, but not a factor, obviously.
Not a factor. No, it's Gabriel Jesus next, so he's kind of the main one that we're considering. Watkins came back. We were talking about Watkins. We couldn't believe that Gerrard has dropped him. He came in. It was a classic Watkins performance, wasn't it? It was kind of really, really busy. No real clinical kind of cutting edge from him. He made a couple of mistakes, but in the end, you know, he's got the pace. He has got the awareness, and he did the right things that I think without him they wouldn't have won that game. But yeah, he's frustrating. I mean, 2 assists in that game, no goals. He's going to annoy the hell out of owners. I guarantee it, because he's just that kind of player. But
yeah, it's like the Saka Martinelli. I just don't think Watkins has got the decision making. He's young and he can learn that, right? But at the moment, he still frustrates, doesn't he? You watch him and he's got so much about him. He's so much talent, but he just sometimes chooses the wrong option. Whether it be taking on that one extra player, or not passing at the right time, or just going with the wrong shot selection. He's just not the complete package yet. But there's no doubt he's got everything else going for him, and he can still develop. But I don't see him impacting our seasons. And yeah, for once we've got options here. Like you look at Nunes when he's back. He's a funny player, isn't he, Nunes? Because he had chances again. He's going to be an XG magnet, but again, he fluffed 2 really good chances, like two complete miss kicks again. One that hit the post, and then one early second half where he did all the hard stuff and then miskicked the shot before he was sent off. So I don't know about Nunes yet. I mean, like, there's no doubt that he is a focal point when he plays, and there's no doubt that he will get goals. But I think he's going to be the player we're going to be screaming at the TV that he's missed a sitter, or he's just fluffed his lines when he really should score. I think we're going to have plenty of that. But we've got to wait. It's another few more weeks before we see it again. But he's going to entertain us one way or another, I think, isn't he?
Andy Carroll Mark II?
No, he's not that bad.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. I think he will frustrate, but he'll also get, like we talked about last week, he just is in the right position. He's the opposite of Neto, for example. He just finds a way to kind of draw himself into the right places. I mean, I say find a way because he's an elite striker, so I'd pay £85 million for him. But I do agree, he doesn't always look the classiest finisher. But yeah, be interesting to see what that is like when he gets a decent run of games.
What do you make of Kane so far?
Well, I was just about to mention Kane. Yeah, I was about to mention Kane.
Because you want to see him in the top 5, wouldn't you? You want to see him challenging Haaland up there and Jesus and Nunes, but he's not yet. And although it's early, I do wonder whether he's going to settle into another season as we saw last, where he is kind of bowing to Son as the main goal threat.
I just don't see it.
You see it like that?
I don't see. There was no way I was going to start with Kane this season, because I sensed that Son has just taken that mantle. I think Son is leagues clear of Kane in terms of which player I'd rather have in my side. Yeah, I mean, obviously he scored the goal, got the header. I bet everyone who sold him for Haaland was delighted with that. But I just can't see. I couldn't justify the price for him. I mean, he's what, 11.3, something like that. You're just not going to pay that for him. When you've got, Salah there, when you've got Haaland, even De Bruyne, you've got Son around the same, well, okay, Son's a bit more, but there's better premiums than Kane. I can't see when we would go with him. I mean, this is Spurs' good run, right? And I'm not seeing anyone picking him up now.
I've just noticed we don't have the decimal places for some of these prices. Our tables are still in pre-season. What are they doing? They're rusty, aren't they? Look at that. Kane's on 11. He's like, I'll sort it out. Don't worry.
Your job.
I know. Yeah. I know. I've let everybody down. Let myself down.
You got the week off next week to sort this out.
Yeah, I'll have a team meeting and I'll get better. I'll get better.
Yeah. I'm not allowed. If anyone's wondering, I'm not allowed to touch these because
He's not allowed to.
I break them.
If you think this is bad, it would be worse.
It would be absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk about Haaland then. We are not going to sit here and try and make the case that you should sell Haaland. He's expected to go on.
Do you want to weave the low block narrative?
Yeah, I think we should.
Seb wants us to do that, doesn't he? But I'm not.
Hey, we said it. We said it before. We were preemptive and not in hindsight. I mean, it is an interesting one with Haaland. I mean, here's his game week 1 versus game week 2. I've just focused on the touches. I mean, everyone kind of knows the narrative around this already. He had 8 touches against Bournemouth. Minutes per touch is 8.9, so nearly 10 minutes per touch. Which, compare that to his kind of all-action display against West Ham, 32 touches, receiving the ball every 2 minutes. Obviously,
it's extreme, isn't it?
It is a massive difference. And Lukaku had that game against Palace last season where he had 7 touches, and he was absolutely slammed through the press, whereas Haaland has been giving a lot. He's been given a lot more kind of wiggle room.
course.
He was occupying space and he was letting the other players come in and all that. I don't really know what to make of it. I can't really understand how a player like Haaland playing for Man City against Bournemouth can only receive the ball once every 10 minutes.
Because I think his job is not to come to the ball. His job is to wait for the ball to come to him. And Pep has given him that strict instruction. And in a home game where they're desperately trying to pick the lock, it happens around him, and he just occupies the box and waits for that chance. And he did get the chance. He had the chance second half. Didn't take it. My theory is that Pep wants to make sure the pressure is off him as soon as possible. I think Pep is aware that if Haaland goes 3 or 4 games without a goal, which sounds unlikely, but has happened before and could happen again, he's worried that the pressure will get on him. Right? And then really, they've got Alvarez, but they don't really want to have a situation where they're not starting Haaland because he's low on confidence or coming under fire. And how's he going to react? He's had media attention, but he's not had Premier League media attention, right? And we know our press and the pressure you get in the Premier League is far beyond anything you get anywhere else, even the Liga and Serie A, right? So I think Pep's aware of that and wants to get him goals, right? I think that and this is why he was so upset with Foden, because when there is a clear-cut chance to get Haaland goals, they need to get him goals, right? Just to make sure there isn't that element of, he's gone 3 or 4 without a goal now.
I can't believe he shot. I still can't believe he shot.
Yeah. Well, no, nor could I.
Rightly punished.
And yeah, but it's still a lot to sub Foden at half-time, given that he got the goal and assist, right? It's still quite extreme. And he also made a point of it in post-match as well. All right, he was asked about it. I do think Pep's aware that he needs to get Haaland just up and running and over that initial doubt, if any. There isn't doubt yet, but there could be. If he goes another 3 or 4 games and doesn't score, people will start questioning him, and there'll be silly stuff in the press, and questions will be asked. Pep will be asked about him. And I think Pep is going, I don't want to go there. I don't want Haaland having that and running the chance of him being affected that, particularly when they start going into Champions League. So I think he wants to get him 4 or 5 goals before the Champions League kicks in, and then it's all gone. The press can't come after him. But in our press, they're like sitting there going, if he goes another couple of games without a goal, we can start writing stuff about, our City losing confidence in him. And, they're probably poised now, aren't they?
I mean, you say it though, but they also he also subs him early. I mean, this is the second game in a row. He's played 70 minutes. So he's finding that balance, isn't he, between kind of protecting him from playing too many matches, but also obviously wanting him to adapt.
Well, I guess that's the other thing, right? He knows that he's going to take him off in games, so he wants to get him the goals while he's on the pitch, to get while he's got those chances. And so when they're not giving him tap-ins, it's going to frustrate him, isn't it? It's going to frustrate Pep. So that all means that we should remain optimistic, but it will get interesting if another couple of games pass and we see similar numbers. Right? And where are they at? Newcastle, right? A good side, good defence, right? They won't make it easy. So, all this, you think if he blanks at Newcastle, as FPL managers, we're going to start going, oh God, he's a lot of money. Maybe we can go down to Jesus, or maybe we can go down to Tony or whatever. So we're going to start asking questions if he goes another couple of games without scoring, aren't we? So.
I don't know. I think given that there's no, I mean, De Bruyne is an option in midfield, but I think you would still go for Haaland over him because of the pens. I don't really like the idea of a Foden or a Gundogan. I know people are talking about them, but I think if you're going to triple up on City, the double defence is the way to go. And then with Haaland, I mean, I've got De Bruyne and I'm happy with him, but if I was wildcarding, I don't think I'd go for De Bruyne over Haaland. No. I can't really justify it, but
I don't think it's a scenario that's going to happen. But I think it's in the back of Pep's mind that he just wants to just make sure Haaland gets over this initial period with a few goals, and then there's no pressure and it's fine. So I think it will happen. I'm not worried, but I think doubts can creep in, can't they? And the press aren't going to be slow to make more of that. So.
Well, the question is, after game week 1, we're sat here and saying, do we need Salah because Haaland could end up being a perma captain if he hits this every week? I think that's the bigger question. The bigger question isn't is Haaland going to be a good option or not? Because obviously he's going to be a good option.
Yeah, he is.
He's Haaland playing for Man City, but it's can we trust him if he is getting subbed early? If he is going to have games where he has a few touches, is he going to be that kind of automatic captain choice each week? I guess the jury's out, but it only takes another brace against Newcastle, and then suddenly he's.
See, if he does become that, it will change our seasons because then, I would look at Son and think, can I downgrade to Kulusevski? And people on Salah will look, can I downgrade to Diaz? Surely, because you're not going to hold another 12 or 13 million pound player if you're captaining Haaland every week. I wouldn't have thought, because you can do more with that money elsewhere. So it isn't going to happen overnight, though. How long will it take for us to think that we can trust Haaland? Probably another what? He'll have to score in 5 or 6 consecutive games probably for us to start thinking that.
Yeah,
he can do that.
And we don't know what's going to happen when the Champions League starts, because
no, that's the thing.
But that could change everything. Yeah. We're already seeing his minutes managed. When that happens, it could be even worse.
Slipper's saying he doesn't see Haaland overtaking Salah for captain.
No, but if you ask that question after game week 1, a lot of people would have said they could see it, and they were already thinking about all the lovely points they were going to get from Haaland.
Yeah, I can see it. But we need to see him and City getting through that low block. They did, but they didn't get him the chances. One chance isn't enough. You'd expect of him to come out of that game with 4 or 5 shots on goal, wouldn't you? So
I'm just going to sit here with KDB captain and just hope
you're looking smart,
he just continues to outscore. Yeah, we'll see. Cool. Right, let's have a look at some predictions then. This is how we got on last week. It was 4 correct scores for me, 4 correct results for you, 4 correct scores for me, and then I got 2 perfect scores, and you got 1 decent again.
Back to the 50% low, aren't we?
Yeah, we were
at 60 and 70%, and we were like, "Woo, here we go!" No, back to the normal range. Of
I'm happy with that. 50, give me 50. Give me 50% again. I'll take it. You're in the lead at 55%. 25% correct scores for me is quite remarkable, though. I think it was a tricky
game week. Game week to actually predict, wasn't it? Liverpool Palace, we were never going to go there. I guess we could have done a better job with Spurs and Chelsea. That a draw is not. I didn't predict Forest win. I thought we'd get a point. So, again, I'll beat myself up about that. Another thing to raise in that team meeting that I have next week.
Got to back Forest more for the wins.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's go this week then. So we've gone fairly similar, actually. We've got a lot of our results. What can possibly go wrong here? Spurs Wolves, to start with them. First game. I am eagerly waiting Perisic news. I'm really, really hoping for some early team news so that I can play Perisic. I think I'll start him even if I don't get any. I think he'll start.
Yeah.
Sessegnon was really poor, and they got subbed off for Richarlison, which was I was like, what on earth's going on here? But I think Perisic scores this, and if he starts and scores, then he's going to be the next bandwagon. I think with Spurs' fixtures the way they are. So yeah. Anything to add on that? This should be a pretty routine win for Spurs, though, shouldn't it?
I think so. I've gone 3-0, and I think there was some girl called Lynn was questioning why would people were going to be, why would Spurs be predicted to thrash Wolves? No, never heard of her either. She just popped up on my timeline. And it's purely, as I answered her, I said it's just down to Kane, Son and Kulusevski, who are probably, they are the best front three. City have got an amazing attack with Haaland, Foden, Grealish, or Mahrez, Grealish. But if I was choosing a front three, it would be the Spurs front three at the moment, because Liverpool don't. They're settling down to their new setup, aren't they? Son and Kane are elite finishers, probably the 2 best. Haaland's up there. Would you say Haaland's a better finisher than Son and Kane? I think the jury's still out. From what we see on, in the Bundesliga, yes, but I still think
I think Son is the best finisher in the world at the moment.
Right. Oh, so that's going. There we go, As always going to the extreme.
Well, I've said it for quite a few seasons. The way he outscores his XG is season after season. He's got to be right up there. I think if I'm thinking of any player through on goal 1-on-1, I think Son would be the one I'd back to finish it.
Yeah. Well, I think those 3 at the moment are Haaland, Kane, and Son. If you're putting your mortgage on anyone to finish a chance, it would be one of those 3, right? So and Spurs have got 2 of them. So it's as simple as that. That's why I'm going 3-0 to Spurs in that game. But, Wolves haven't been tested yet, so I think it's difficult to say that. Wolves are playing a back 4 now. I think Spurs put them to the sword.
Yep. Next, Palace v Villa. Probably not a huge amount of FPL interest in this one. Palace obviously had a tough start to the season. Now people hopping on Villa assets because their fixtures are really turning. I've got rid of Dean and I feel delighted about it as well. Cash is injured. Carlos is injured as well, isn't he? So he makes their defence. That's good. I mean, Coutinho was subbed and he's injured as well. I mean, there's not really a huge amount you can go with. You've got to get rid of Bailey now. Like, it's just a fire sale of Villa assets. And we've both just gone for kind of fairly routine Palace wins to 0.
Yeah, and Palace have impressed me.
Yeah,
I mean, Elise's back now. He's such a great player. Eze looks fantastic. We didn't talk about him on the midfield table, but at 5'5", he could be another player to pop out. And I expect Elise to play a part in our season at some point. Those 2 are great. Zaha, we know what we get. They're going to have too much with Villa, I think. And Villa, I just don't know what to expect. I don't know what we're going to get from them week in, week out. Gerrard's not had that consistency yet in terms of lineup or performance or result. So, it's going one way. Oh, this is a good one. You've gone with me, and you're going bigger than me.
I know. I've got 2-0 Forest over Everton. You've gone for a 1-0. I really enjoyed watching Forest at the weekend. I mean, obviously their last away game they were awful against Newcastle, much better at home, but I don't like Everton. I don't like them at all. I don't like them defensively. I don't like them attacking wise. I think Lampard's got a too big a job on his hands, and I think Forest now going to have the wind in themselves a little bit. So look at all the strikers you've got. You're going to have Mopé soon, Dennis, Johnson, Lingard. Got too many attackers.
Yeah, and I think this will go 0-0. 10 minutes to go. Dennis will come on and get the winner. I think. I think
you don't get extra points for that.
Do you remember Dennis at Goodison Park last year for Watford? He absolutely tore them a new one, didn't he? Do you remember when they beat them 4-5-2? I think they beat them, and Dennis was credible in that game. And I think he'll fancy it if he gets on the pitch against their defence. They've got injuries at the back, haven't they? So they'll have Cody and Tarkowski. I don't think that'll worry Dennis. I think he's looked really lively for Watford this season as well. So I don't think we'll start him, but I think he'll be on with 20 minutes to go, and I think he might be the one who wins it for us. Everton haven't got too much going forward. The Goodison Park crowd are the factor. They could be enough to get them Everton a result, maybe, but I've got to back us this week. So, yeah.
I love that Forest have got promoted. You've started a tirade against Analytics FC, and you've signed the 2 poster boys of Grass FC in Dennis and Lingard.
Yeah. Almost on purpose.
I know. Yeah. It's all part of your master plan, isn't it? Yeah. Fulham Brentford next. We've both gone for Brentford wins. I've gone for a 1-0. You've gone for a 2-1. Yeah, I did this one a while ago. I think they're looking into it a bit more. I think there could be goals in this. Both good high pressing teams. I think 1-0. I think there probably will be more goals in it than just the one. You've gone for the Brentford win though, so I mean that'd be a hell of a start for Brentford if they get this 2 wins and a draw from their first 3.
I mean, what I saw against United, obviously the headline was United's performance, but what about Brentford? I mean, they played with such confidence, and I thought they'd struggled to create opportunities, but Tony and Mbumo look like they've gone up a level, don't they?
Yeah,
like they both look in that game. Like I watched them a lot last year, and I had Mbumo at the start of the season, and they really frustrated me because I thought that Brentford struggled to create anything for them, and then Mbumo and Tony weren't good enough to actually create much on their own. They had a good understanding, but they didn't have much in the way of penetration, and Tony still had a good season. He managed to get 12 goals anyway. But what I saw in the Leicester game and what I saw against United was both players with far more confidence, looked really fit, really full of energy. And obviously Tony scored in that game. He got 2 assists against United. Mbumo scored against United, took his goal really well. I mean, last season, Mbumo was hitting the post with that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He hit the post about 17 times by game week 2, I think. So, I think those 2 have gone up a level, and that makes me think that Brentford are always going to be a decent side at the back, well organised, and they've got Damsgaard to come into the team. I don't know where he's going to go, but I presume it's going to be the 10 or the 8, somewhere in the engine room rather than wide. I think they'll have a little bit too much for Fulham. I'm going 2-1.
I think Ben Mee's a good signing. as well for them. Just gives them that
Yeah.
that presence in the box from set pieces, like they did with one of the goals. He's like kind of commanding presence at the back because they've got injuries at the back, but he's come in and taken on some of that leadership duty. Obviously, having Raya back is massive because he just cleans things up and can get the attacks going. They've got a good side. I don't think they're going to be in the mix really for relegation this year. I think they're going to be.
No, I don't.
They're going to be all right.
No.
Yeah.
It's early days, but from what I've seen, yeah.
Got a clear game plan. Leicester Southampton next. I've gone for a 2-0 Leicester. I hadn't actually seen those defensive data stats before I looked at it. I didn't realise they were this bad. You've gone for a 2-1 Leicester. I mean, if they don't win this, Rodgers is in big trouble, I think, because it wasn't a good season last year, and to have started without a win after 3 games, I think he could be in big trouble. So, are they going to step up and play for him?
Yeah, I don't think he's under threat. Leicester can't afford to lose a manager like Rodgers. They're not going to replace him with anyone better at the moment. They need some stability if players are leaving. So I don't think he's under pressure, but I think he might walk.
No, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think they win this. I think, Southampton have got some good players. They're still settling down. They've got a lot of young players, haven't they? And that leads to inconsistency and erratic performances. And they're going to struggle.
They did well. I think Leicester 2-0 down to Leeds.
They did, and there's good signs, but they just not. I don't think they can. They're a bit like Salisu at the back, right? He looks a world beater one week and then terrible the next, and that's a bit like Southampton. And I think this will be a week where they have an off week and they fall to Leicester.
Yep. Bournemouth Arsenal, comprehensive away wins for Arsenal. I've gone for a 3. You've gone for a 2-0. I think Bournemouth were all right, and they've started the season strongly, but Arsenal are too good at the moment. Hate to play them.
Yeah, I think it's got to go that way. Bournemouth, if Solanke's out again, their main reliance is on set plays, and Arsenal have actually defended set plays brilliantly over the last couple of seasons. So I don't see much joy for Bournemouth at set pieces unless Arsenal have a bad day in that area. And I don't see Bournemouth creating too much from open play. So it's how many if they can keep Arsenal out, but I don't see it. Yeah. Routine win, I think. Yeah,
and we're going to talk about Gabriel Jesus as a potential captain option in a sec. One thing I will say about Bournemouth is I saw that lineup against Man City and my heart sank.
Yeah.
Because I just thought Haaland is going to eat this team. No Solanke, Billing wasn't there. It looks like a kind of lower championship side, but, fair play. They played well. Leeds Chelsea next. We did have a super chat earlier about Mount as well. We haven't really talked about him. We've both gone for 2-0 Chelsea wins. I mentioned Sterling. I think if you're looking for a punt this week and for the next couple of weeks, I think Sterling is probably the one. Just coming on to Mount. I mean, Mount is 51st on the midfielder list in terms of XGI non-penalty per 90. I think he's looked really poor in both games. I mean, I gave him the first game because he was kind of marked well by Everton, but he wasn't great against Spurs either. He was not really in the right places. He had a couple of really wayward shots. I don't know. He was there for the kind of energy and things that he kind of brings to the side. But from an FPL sense, I think he's quite a way down in terms of the 8 million options. Kulusevski, Diaz, even Foden. He's not someone I'd probably recommend people bring in, but I'm holding him.
Yeah, I mean, at the start of the season, Saka and Mount were my top 2. And neither of them have convinced in the first 2 fixtures. It's early days, and if you've got Mount, you're probably not in a hurry to sell him because you might have other fires, and Chelsea have got
He's dropping tonight in price, which is another annoyance.
Yeah, I want to talk about that in a minute, actually. We're going to go well over 2 hours here, and it was me thinking, but I've still got so much to talk about. But yeah, go on. Yeah, move on.
Would you agree with that then? Don't buy Mount, but don't sell him?
Yeah, don't buy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. West Ham Brighton. My dad is going to this match. He will enjoy himself, no doubt. And I've gone for a 1-0 Brighton. My dad tends to, when my dad goes to Brighton matches, we tend to win. How's that for expert analysis? He also
analytics will love that, won't they?
Well, I think he deliberately chooses games in which he thinks Brighton can win at, and he's gone for a Brighton win in this one. Haven't been that impressed with West Ham at all. I know we've talked about Forest and you riding it like a little bit, but I didn't think they were that great in that match. Antonio just still looks lost, doesn't he? They need to get Scamacca in that side as quickly as possible.
Scamacca looks pretty worryingly good. He came on and straight away it was like, my God, the size of him. He's a unit. And Niakate had a really good battle with Antonio in the game. And Scamacca came on and had a little bit too much craft for him. And Niakate completely missed the ball and they nearly score from it. Antonio had gone up against Nketiah all through the game and it had been a clash and a muscular battle. Skamaka came on and went, no, I'm going to find another way of getting past you. And he did, like immediately, just threw his shoulder and let the ball run past, and Nketiah just fell for it completely. And that made me think, this guy's got a bit about him. And he's a unit as well, as I said. So it won't be long before Antonio's out the team or having to push wide, which, a shame. But
it's been coming for a while. I mean, he's not just from an FPL perspective. I think his form's massively dropped off last year. You've gone for a draw.
Come back to the City ground, Mikhail. That's
You don't need another striker, Mark. The last bloody position you need to fill. You've gone for a 1-1. Yeah, I mean, I think on paper we've got a good record against West Ham. Actually, we've done well against them since we've been promoted. If you care about that kind of stat at all, we do well away from home as well. I think a win or a draw is lucky. I don't think we'll lose this one. Actually, but it should be a good game. Newcastle City, I've given Newcastle a goal. Gone for 3-1 just because they're at home. I think they will create chances. We know Wilson up front and Gamiris, good midfield. Should be a good battle, this one. You've gone for a 2-0 City. Yeah, anything to add on that? It should be a City win on paper.
Yeah, I think this will be a classic City away performance. Very much like West Ham, they'll get a goal. The home side will have to come out, and then they'll probably catch them, and then they'll call it a day and make subs and ease out the last 20 minutes. And that we'll see that time and time again. I expect this season. I don't think City will overexert themselves in games. They'll always make those changes with 15, 20 minutes to go, where you'll see the likes of De Bruyne and Haaland come off. It's just whether they can get to a point of comfort by that stage. And I think they'll do it again in this game. It'll be more difficult to get the opening goal probably, but I think they'll do it. And I don't see them winning many games away from home 3 or 4-0 because I don't think they'll push.
They'll get the job done.
Especially Liverpool. Liverpool have dropped points already. City will look at it and go, well, we can just win games. And if they win, it's in their hands. I know it's miles out and City will drop points, but there's every chance they're going to widen the gap over the next 3 or 4 weeks because Liverpool look like they could lose more points. And City at the moment, we haven't seen anything yet in terms of a weakness. Maybe we will at Newcastle, we'll have to see.
If Arsenal and Spurs are going to be their biggest title contenders, they'd be pretty happy with that because they do not have a good history of being consistent throughout an entire season.
Well, Spurs can go to the Etihad and win though, so
they can indeed. That. Well, that is true. Yeah. That is why it was an important point for Spurs against Chelsea because they need to keep that distance not too big because again they need to not lose stupid games and to get points in which they're not playing well. I think is very anti-Spurs actually. United Liverpool. Oh my God, it's the last game. You've gone for a 3-1. You've given United a win, a goal. I've just gone for a 4-0 Liverpool.
4-0.
I can't see any way in which United can hurt Liverpool. I know the midfield isn't great and Matip's not there, but I said this last week. Liverpool were the best pressing side in the world.
Yeah, I see it, right? But if I've got to hope that those United players rally round and go, right, actually, Liverpool at home is the perfect game because it gives us a chance to show that we're not the write-offs that people are saying we are. Ten Hag can surely use this fixture and go, right, it's going to be a test, but show us what you got. I think they'll put up a bit of a fight. And I don't think
they've got any fight in them.
Well, I don't want to write them off yet. You're probably right. There's probably an 80% chance you're correct. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and think that they'll put on a bit better performance and actually Liverpool will be stretched for some of the game and they'll run out winners, but they won't trounce them. You've obviously gone for. Do Liverpool look like winning 4-0? Maybe I don't
think United look like winning. Liverpool look like winning 4-0, but I think United look like losing 4-0 every match, and they've and again, there's people in the chat saying, "Oh, I hate United and all that." Well, I do very much dislike the way United are set up at the moment and the way they play. If they're going to play out of the back and not press against Liverpool, they're going to get destroyed. They're going to get absolutely destroyed. There's no two ways about it. So, I remember Solskjaer last year when he tried to get them to press high up the pitch. They got completely taken out in that game. I just don't know how they play against.
The thing is, right? Ten Hag's a football manager and meant to be a good one.
Yeah.
If you and I are sitting here now going, they're going to be prone to the press. Surely he spent the last week trying to make sure United are prepared for that and can not fall for that.
But then why wasn't he prepared against Brighton and Brentford, who are two pressing sides?
But what are we saying? Ten Hag hasn't got a clue? Is that what we're saying?
I'm saying that he has not got the players to do any kind of tactics that he wants to instill in that team.
You don't need good players to go, don't play around at the back, Get it up, get it direct early. Put the pressure on the Liverpool back four. They haven't got Matip. They look a bit shaky. Get the ball forward early. Don't play into their hands and try and play out from the back. Look at what De Gea did at Brentford.
Yeah.
Surely he's going to say, don't do that again. If we see that again, it'll be pretty... If I was a United fan and they fall for that again, not only fall for it against Liverpool, but do what they did against Brentford and get caught out because they can't play it around at the back because De Gea gets caught. That'll be unforgivable.
No, I know.
Nick.
I know.
Because you then got to go, what's Ten Hag doing?
I know.
Haven't you? Has he got no influence on the players if they fall for that again? We're getting into United again. What are we doing? We're like every other football show for the last week. We're falling.
I mean, this is the big game, right? I mean, it is United v Liverpool. Okay. I mean, the last thing I'll say is that they... under Solskjaer, they got battered by Liverpool when they tried to press. Rangnick came in, and you would think in the reverse fixture, Rangnick would get them playing a system which at least wouldn't get them battered again, and they got battered again. So they got battered home and away last season. They haven't made any new signings. In fact, they made one that arguably makes them even weaker in Martinez. And I just can't see anything good. So,
but Liverpool got injuries at the back, got injuries in midfield.
That is true.
And they're missing their centre forward. Yeah. You take that and you go, get amongst them, get the ball forward. Blood and thunder, Old Trafford crowd behind us, impose yourself. That's what you do, don't you? I mean, I'm not trying to tell Ten Hag his job, but that's what I would expect to see. If we see the same passive, placid, play the ball around and fall for the press performance, then bloody hell, we have got to worry about Ten Hag.
Yeah.
Really have. Because surely he can coach his players to get more from them than we saw against Brentford and not fall for it again. But we'll see.
We'll see. It's going to be very interesting Monday night. Let's take a look at the captain matrix. We've gone for a kind of a Haaland and Salah kind of rotation.
Depressing.
Yeah, I mean, every week. I mean, you've got Salah v United this week. You've got Salah v Bournemouth next week, which we might be doing a match of the day challenge for, if you can get permission from Pip.
Yeah.
Game week 5 is interesting. Haaland versus your boys. Salah versus Newcastle, both at home. And then game week 6, Salah versus Everton, Haaland v Villa. And then game week 7, Salah versus Wolves. It's going to be very difficult to come off one of those two players for at least the next 5-6 weeks, isn't it?
Well, I've got Son this week, and then I've got Son at Forest next week. So it's not disastrous for me, is it? Not having Salah. Or I could go Haaland. It's game week 5, which is hard. I'll probably have to go Haaland against Forest when I'm there. Game week 6, Son's got Fulham at home. I don't mind doing that. And then game week 7, that's when it's really tough for me because City play Spurs. So I've only got Haaland and Son. So I've probably got to play a wild card going into 7, haven't I? It's probably what I'm thinking. Yep. And then get Nunez if I don't want Salah, maybe, if he's back then. But yeah, there's a long way off, but it's worth doing this planning, right? So you can see and you can go, right, where's the wild card going to go? At the moment, the problematic week looks to be game week 7 because other than Liverpool, it's really hard to back. I think it's hard to back Spurs or City when they play each other. Although there was 5 goals in that game last time, so maybe not.
We should go for Son. He loves a goal against City. If we look at the data of this week, I know we're seeing a lot of people talking about Jesus, and if you look at the underlying numbers, he is right up there. Well, he's at the top. Best XGR non-penalty per 90, 1.2. I mean, does that not worry you? Not even having Jesus for this really good-looking game?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but I can't make a sideways move moving Saka out after 2 games. I've got to have faith that Saka will deliver. And he's was he 12 points behind Jesus? So he's only got to score and get bonus, and suddenly the gap's nothing. So yeah, it could happen this weekend. So I can't panic yet. Obviously, if I'm sitting here in 5 or 6 game weeks time and Saka's got 1 goal and Jesus has got 7 or 8, then I'll probably be wild carding. But the other thing is, do I want to wild card Jesus when he's in so many teams? I don't want to let that be a factor, but it is in the back of my mind. But I went Saka because I thought he could hold his own, maybe even outscore Jesus, and it hasn't turned out like that so far. And Jesus looks electric. I can't. I'm more worried about Jesus than I am Salah.
Yeah, I bet you are. It's a very difficult position to be in, something like that, because I think I said this to Gianni earlier. You don't want to move for a player that's 75% owned because it just feels like you're just getting in someone who's got. But equally, if he's a player that he's just going to continue to destroy,
can't be stubborn though.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I will move there eventually if Saka can't lift himself. But as I say, 2 games is not enough to make that conclusion yet.
Interesting with Salah. I mean, Salah normally is right at the top of all of these lists, but he has had a slow start to the season. Next year, non-penalty per 90 of 0.61. I mean, that's still I always say anything above 0.6 in this category is kind of, you're heading into like elite. You're heading into like 180, 190 points probably if you keep that because of the season. So that's still very encouraging, but it's not where he was last year, where he was like, what, 0.9 or something like that? Basically getting you a return every game.
Do you think with Núñez out, I mean, Diaz could play up front?
Yeah, I think that could
that's
happen.
what we saw.
Yeah.
Like Carvalho could start left and Diaz down the middle and then Salah out right. It depends if Firmino's fit or not. If he's fit, Firmino starts, and then that's probably good for Salah, and Salah will probably thrive. I still think there's something in this when Núñez plays. Salah is not as selfish as he was. I think we saw it in the game again against Palace, where he drew defenders and laid it off to Trent a few times, and he crossed the ball early a few times, which is not the kind of stuff we saw as often last season. But it's so early to say. You know, he still looked good second half without any end product. And I think if Firmino plays, he's going to do well. And I think looking at the defensive data here, you look at United, 2-game sample, but you've got to think Liverpool score at least a couple of goals. You've put them down for 4. I don't see that, but I see Salah coming out with a return. You've got to think that.
Yep.
So I probably would go Salah if I had him. And I guess that's the way you're going, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll come on to teams, our teams now. I know Andy's in the chat saying he's waiting to see our moves. We both made our moves. Before we do that, let's just
all done.
Yeah, before we do that, let's talk quickly. But you want to say something about price rises, right?
Yeah, it was more about early transfers and where you stand on them, because I know, like, you know, I listened to the Scoutcast and Joe is very much like against it, and I certainly get that school of thought. I've always been in the camp of early in the season you have to move and you have to be aggressive. And even if it's taking a hit, like I've done, to try and lock in value and jump on rises, when it's players that you know you want over the long term, I think it's necessary. Where do you stand on that? Are you in between? Are you in my camp, or are you more in the Joe stance? Sorry to give Joe the label of he's Mr. Anti-early transfer, but he kind of is. Yeah, he'll understand.
I mean, Greyhead post as well, didn't he, about Fabio Borges? Fabio Borges is on the Joe side as well. He rarely makes transfers until it's the Friday when we've got the team news and all that kind of thing. I have been burnt so many times by not moving early for players, and then they've got priced out of my reach by game week 4, game week 5. Lundstrom is the classic example that I can remember. I really regret just not taking that hit early on, even though I had other fires I wanted to put out, not taking that hit and bringing him in, because, you know, in the end I ended up paying about 4.8 million for him or something like that, and that's a lot of money. And I look at my team value dropped to 99.9, which is the lowest it's ever been. And so I made my moves yesterday to correct that. I made 0.2 last night. I'm going to get another one tonight. And I think one of my players is going to drop that I would have sold. So if I'd waited until Friday, that's 0.4. I'm down to, 99.5 team value.
Yeah, and right now Joe's listening going, it's points, not pounds that matter. It's not points, not value. And I get it, right? But I'm interested to see where the analytics crowd sit on this, because, of course, Joe's always said, and again, sorry, Joe, but Joe has always said to me, if you can't get the player you want, there's always another option. But of course, the analytics side of things, the model, you can't say that to a model. You can't go, well, the model's telling me to get this player, but there's always another option. That goes against everything, the old optimal, non-optimal thing. It's very much about if there's a player that's optimal, that's a player you want, right? So I'm in that camp. I'm in that, I want to protect value so I can always be in a position to get the player I want and not be priced out. And I think, unfortunately, this season already, the player losses, the price value drops, rather. Sorry, trying to get my words out. The price drops have been quite aggressive. Yeah, it's been aggressive, hasn't it? Players dropping quickly, and a lot of them. And I don't like that. I like to lock in. And I think early season, you can make moves to do that. And I think what's crucial is having that first sub. And we've both got Andreas and we've both got Nico Williams. And Nico Williams at Everton, to be honest, I look at it and think, actually, I wouldn't mind playing him. So I think if you've got that 12th man, if you've got that sub and you think, if I get an injury, the worst that happens is that 12th man comes in and that's a player that I don't mind starting, then I think you can afford to take the risk and try and eke out that little bit of advantage. There is no question in my mind. If you move early for a player and you get him 0-1 cheaper and the player you're getting rid of is also going down 0-1, so you're a 0-2 swing, you've got an advantage over a manager who didn't do that, who made that transfer later. It's an advantage. You're getting a 0-2 advantage by doing that move
Absolutely.
earlier. So It's whether you've got the appetite for the risk.
Yeah, I mean, there's some players which I think we just need to move on. Like I think James is entering into that with the fixtures Chelsea have got. Like he's just not someone that we can wait around with because he's going to be 6.2, 6.3 soon because he's going to keep getting returns and chipping away. Martinelli as well, 6 million. I mean, maybe Saka. The reason why I didn't want to double up on Arsenal was because I was waiting to see Odegaard, I was waiting to see Saka, I was waiting to see some of the other players, and then it's pretty clear now that Martinelli is the best option. So I've moved for him as well. There's other players, though, that I'm happy to be a bit more patient with. I'm happy to stomach a price drop on Mount because the fixtures are good and I can keep him. I'm happy to... I'm not happy, but I don't mind the Perisic drop, for example, because I want to see him against Wolves. Because I think if he does score in that, suddenly he's going to be bought by loads of people. So I don't think you kind of have to relentlessly chase price rises and price drops and really panic about it. But if there's an opportunity to make 0.3, 0.4 million... early in a week and not have and you can't do that if you wait till the later team moves. I think you have to take it. I think it's too bigger.
You're trading upside. That value for information. It's whether that information later in the week is an advantage over the value. Can be, but if you've got a good sub, then you can afford, I think, to take that risk.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Pereira
if you don't,
is that.
Then I wouldn't do it. Right.
Yeah. I think Pereira's fine. It's not like Pereira's playing Man City or Chelsea this week. He's
and you've got Nico, Brentford. Right? Have you got Nico?
I haven't, no, but a lot of people do. Oh, right. There's plenty of players I think that can cover you if you do get an unfortunate injury. Yeah. Right, let's take a look at our teams. This is yours on the screen. I'll read it out for you if you like.
Oh, you're going me first, are you?
Yeah, we'll go you first. Okay. Yeah, sort of. Oh yeah, I should have put you back. That's how the clickbait works, isn't it? I remember. Damn. It's Ramsdale in goal. It's Trent. It's Cancelo, James and Walker. I mean, pretty solid defence so far on goalkeeper. Son, Diaz, Saka, Martinelli, Haaland and Tony. I mean, you're looking much healthier than you were last week. What moves have you made?
Yeah, well, it was Robertson to James and Johnson to Tony. Johnson was the weak link. I think Johnson could end up scoring at Everton and hurt me, but longer term, I think Johnson's going to go down in price tonight. Robertson could go down in price before the weekend. And James was going up and Tony was going up. So it could be a 0-4 swing off the back of this, right? And yes, I've taken the hit, but I think that's okay early in the season to lock in value. I don't mind that. I'm not going to take lots of hits. I didn't do this kind of thing too much last season and I didn't have a great season. So maybe it's a thing that I need to do more this season. Don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet. But it felt right. And at this stage, I look at that team and think there's no obvious weakness now. No. Unless, obviously, Saka continues to disappoint, but I don't see any weaknesses anywhere else. I mean, obviously I haven't got Salah, but I think Son at home to Wolves will do fine. I'd be disappointed if I don't get a return from him. And Tony has got the kind of run that if you look at the fixtures, it's the kind of run where you'll look back in 10 weeks and go, well, of course I should have got Tony. Look at the fixtures. So it's one of those runs where you think, I think I've got to jump on that. And of course, everyone's got Haaland or Jesus so Tony's probably a player that not many have gone to unless they've gone free up front. So there's that's quite attractive for me as well. Could have gone Mitrovic, it was close, but I think I just prefer Tony at the moment.
I think the only thing is it is quite a scary few weeks for you with Arsenal's fixtures the way they are and Jesus and the form he's in and Salah obviously with good games and then the Bournemouth game coming up in a little bit. I mean that's the team looks great. I mean there's always it doesn't matter what team you've got. There's always going to be players you're concerned about and worried about. So. Yeah,
but I mean like if they win 2-0 and Saka gets goal and assist, everyone's not it changes it, and he could could. And if Jesus scores, I'd hope that Saka and Martinelli get me something out of that as well. Didn't at the weekend. Maybe that's a one-off. Maybe that happens every week. Maybe he runs riot and Saka gets nothing every week. But I'm willing to take that.
It's really frustrating with someone like Jesus as well because he's a good player. He's highly out. He's probably going to do well, and then he just does, and you're like, when it gets to the end, you're like, oh well, maybe I should have been.
That's fantasy football.
It is.
Like, you can't have them all. And I look at my team and I'm happy with it. And what's important is, am I happy with my team?
Yeah.
Yes. So that's it. Fine. Obviously, people can argue I'd rather have that player than that player. Fine. Yeah. But I want to back these players. And game week 3, I'm not gonna change my mind yet. I think a bit of patience at this stage in the season can help you. If we're sitting here in game week 5 and Saka's got 1 assist to his name, it'll change, won't it?
Yeah. My team then, I mean, my transfers are all about making a team that I like the look of as well. So I've still got Ward in goal, which is obviously a bit of a problem, but the rest of the team I think is now looking pretty good. Trent, Cancelo, James, Perisic, hopefully he starts. Zinchenko's come in, Salah captain, De Bruyne, Mount, Martinelli, and Gabriel Jesus. So I just removed, I sacrificed Robertson, but that's let me get in James and upgrade Neto to Martinelli. And then I had Dean, and I just thought, I know the classic FPL rule is don't take a hit for a defender, but I just don't want Dean anymore. And it's
but you're getting James. You're
Yeah.
getting James.
Well,
But
I'd already got James. So I did Robertson to James and Neto to
Zinchenko.
Martinelli, and then I just took the extra -4 to do Dean to Zinchenko, and that's going to get me a 0.2. It's going to get me a 0.2 saving, and I'm setting myself up going forward. So
yeah.
Would you wouldn't. Would you have kept Dean for another week?
No, but I wouldn't have been silly enough to have him in the first place.
Well, no, I know. Oh.
I was silly enough to have Johnson, maybe. So but that was my heart telling me. I don't know what part of your body told you to get Dino, but it wasn't your head or your heart, was it?
Well, I just thought
was it your elbow or something? I don't know.
I thought he'd get more than 0 points against Bournemouth and Everton.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
God, ridiculous. Yeah. So I'm on a -4 as well, but I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, that's what saving the transfer does, right? I know everyone either did the Kane to Haaland move or banked, and I know there was a lot of talk pre-season about whether to just start with Haaland or Kane, and a lot of people went for Kane and have had that move kind of booked in, but that's the advantage of not thinking of doing that move, is that I just got to be able to sort my team out, because if I didn't have 2 free transfers and I had that team, I think I would have been in wildcard territory, because it would have been a -8 to get to this. And then I've still got Mount. I'm not too sure about.
You can't go -8. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, like you've got Mount to my Saka, haven't you? We're both like, kind of like, he needs to do something. And then you've got the Ward Everson issue, I guess. But Perisic should be all right, I think. Yeah.
Exciting to see him start. If he does start and watch that Spurs game.
He should do well, but I think you're going to be missing him in game week 5 probably. He'll get rotated for that one, but you're going forward with a player who's going to be exciting for you, but you're going to have anxiety before the team sheet comes out, right? It's going to be one of those.
Yeah, I don't really know why I entered into this, but in the end, the excitement factor just got to me.
I think you've got to have some Spurs, right? There's so many teams I'm seeing out there with no Spurs players at all, and so I'm okay with that. I've got some, so I don't mind that. But it does surprise me because, like I said at the start of the show, they've got the best front three.
Yeah.
I would have thought you want some buy-in. So I think Mount to Kulusevski is probably what you're thinking, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I just started with Kulusevski like I always planned to, and then I think I'd be looking even stronger. I think if I'm picking an 8 million midfielder now, I'm picking Kulusevski out of a lot of them. So, I'm a bit annoyed with myself, but I think there is potential for Chelsea over the next 3. So I will definitely give him out the Leeds game. If he blanks in that, then it might be, because I could even move to Diaz now, for example, if I wanted to, and I've got a bit of money in the bank. So
I think you'll do all right. I am looking forward to a couple more green arrows this time next week, hopefully.
And look at us saying, giving each other
well,
praise.
It's us against the world,
It is.
It's us against the world, right? So,
me and you, Mark, BlackBox boys.
Until I start beating you, then
until you turn on me. Yeah. So likely.
They know how it is out there.
It's dog eat dog. It's fine.
Yeah.
Speaking of BlackBox boys, let's take a look at the BlackBox League. If you haven't joined yet, make sure you do join. The league code is 3V7DQ9. There's a link in the description as well.
How you do that.
Yeah, it's my what's the word when it's you're doing it and it's, I can't remember. I'll probably say the wrong word. It'll be like some kind of
It's too late. It's too late at night.
It is too late. God, it's 20
you don't want to go there.
ADSM. That's it.
Oh, okay, right. ADSM. No, ASMR. You mean?
Oh,
ADSM is something completely different. I don't know where you're getting that from.
What's ADS? Oh, God.
I don't know, but you probably got us banned from YouTube there. Well done, that's fantastic.
Oh, no.
Good job.
What is it? What is it?
ASMR.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh God. People are googling now.
I don't know what even it is, but it's all a bit weird.
ADSM. I don't know what that is. I don't know. I don't want to go there.
It's either a mental disorder or something really bad.
No. Let's just leave it there.
Let's leave it there. Join the league.
Delirious.
Stephen Browner is currently top. He's on 101 points for the game week, which is a massive thing. He's on 185 points altogether. How many points have I got?
What a start.
122. So he's 63 ahead of me.
He's nearly 100 ahead of me already.
Yeah, but 100 ahead of you. Wow, that's and then you've got Pulkit in second, Daniel Eberhard in third. Joint second. Kevin Murray in fourth with a red arrow with 76 points. Some big scores from these guys, which obviously you'd expect to shoot more the ranks. But and Jim Zwick in 5th. Great starts, you guys. So
can I just give a shout out to Natalie at this point, and ask you when you're going to dissolve that Apprentice League, because it's showing us both up. It's quite embarrassing.
Yeah. Have we got there's loads of people laughing at my thing in the chat about.
Yeah,
I think BDSM is a.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't know. I didn't know. Sorry, I said too much.
You said,
there.
"Oh yeah," way too quickly. Then
no. Going back to Natalie, he's changing the subject completely. What a start!
Oh my God, she's on 167 points. She would be.
So she'd be almost on this table,
almost on the list. Yeah, she's having an amazing start.
Yeah. What have you done, Az? What have you created?
Oh, her team looks good as well. Edison, Trent, James, Trippier, Cancelo, Martinelli, Haaland. Oh God.
It's scary, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a concern. We should have deleted that league.
Please delete the league. Exactly.
Oh God, what an ending!
It's there in black and white to haunt us every week. If we've got to catch up. We've got to catch up. It's essential. Right?
If anyone's listening to this and they do want some advice from a decent manager, do check out Natalie's YouTube channel. She's FPL Parry on Twitter, and she does her own content. So.
I'm very proud of the fact. Honestly, I'm not bitter at all.
Where's your apprentice? Not even playing.
He's given up. He's given up. Are you surprised when he was like my apprentice last season? Oh dear, he didn't even register a team. There you go. What contrasting fortunes of that experiment. There you go.
Didn't even register a team. Yeah,
Natalie's probably got more chance of winning the FPL now in the years to come than we have. That's a depressing thought.
Everyone says, "Oh, Mark's the godfather. I wish he could tutor me. He'd be the best." No, look what happens. Don't even bloody play. Anyway, 2,263 people watching. Amazing stuff. Thank you all for your support as usual. Please do like the stream. 653 likes. One day I want to see 1,000 likes. That's my dream. Might happen one day.
Give us his dream.
Give me my dream. That'd be great. And also make sure you're subscribed to the channel as well, and do join the league code. And like I mentioned earlier, the scout price, fantasy football scout price, goes up on Saturday. So make sure you lock in the cheaper price before then. But I think that's it, Mark. It's been great. I'm
going to go away and going to look on YouTube for ADSM and see what I find. So maybe I won't, actually.
You've got to sort our tables out before you can do any private browsing.
Oh, what a shocker! I'll be looking into that Brighton data. I won't be sleeping before I do that. No. I'll be going straight to look at that and see what went wrong, and I'll be tweeting the correct table tomorrow, putting my wrongs to right.
Look forward to it.
Yes,
good stuff. Yeah. But yeah, until next week, we'll be back. And yeah, thanks everyone, and we'll see you soon.
Good night from me.
Good night, everyone.